Daddy, first day in a long time.
You wouldn't be a liar, would you?
No, I would not.
You'd be honest to a fault, I would say.
Well, I would. Yeah, too honest. Sometimes, you know. Yeah. You know yourself.
It's not a bad thing, isn't it?
See,
the one thing to be a liar, to be a good liar,
good memory.
You have to have a very good memory.
Yeah.
And you don't have a good memory. So.
I do not. Honestly, I don't.
Yeah.
Do you know? You were in pretty early this morning. The roads are not so bad. I know
it's one of those things. It's hard to comment on because there's no point me just talking about my road because everyone's going on different roads and
routes,
it's different in different areas. I don't know why we didn't end up with an orange weather warning the same as the rest of the country either, because it might have given the impression that things weren't so bad. But look at, we're big people. We need a little bit of guidance, but we generally just get on with our lives, don't we?
We know how to push forward.
Yeah. But anyway, again, another invaluable service from Lee Gooch and the team, keeping us up to date
Shannon's
this morning.
And Michaela doing the stuff on the webs and the socials.
It's not about
and
the
the
on
stuff.
air, but that's grand.
All right, good man.
Hey Lee,
can we have a good jumper?
Be good.
Have a good jumper. I just clocked your jumper. That's how
You're
my brain works.
With my clothes.
It just says have a good jumper.
Dude.
Yeah,
just a jumper.
But it's a nice jumper.
Thanks
it's a blue
so
jumper.
Excellent.
You're the man with the jumpers this weather now.
I have.
It's the weather for it.
Of course. Like, what can I say to that, Lee?
You're not going to come in with a t-shirt.
You want me to chat to you about my choice of jumpers?
Anyway, have a good jumper.
Good luck.
Good luck.
All right, and look after the trousers. Okay, it is the 9 till noon show at 9 o'clock. Let's get a news update and we'll cross over to Michaela Clark and say a very good morning. Hi, Michaela.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. A post-mortem is due to be carried out today on the body of a man found at a vacant property in Burnfoot. Gardaí are appealing for information. Emily Keegan reports.
An investigation is underway to determine the circumstances surrounding the death of a man following the discovery of his body at a vacant property in Dundrain, Burnfoot at around 2:30 yesterday afternoon. The man has not yet been identified. His body has been removed to the mortuary at Letterkenny University Hospital, where a post-mortem examination is due to be carried out today. The scene remains preserved for technical and forensic examination. Gardaí say the results of the post-mortem will determine the course of their investigations. Anyone with information surrounding the discovery of the man's body is asked to contact Buncrana Garda Station or the Garda Confidential line.
Temperatures dipped to -8 degrees in parts of the country overnight. Sub-zero temperatures affected many areas as the cold snap continues. A status orange low temperature and ice warning remains in place for most of the country except Donegal until 11 o'clock this morning, while a status yellow low temperature and ice warning remains in place for the entire country until lunchtime tomorrow. Cathal Nolan of Ireland's Weather Channel says temperatures will plummet again tonight.
We get another very cold night tonight with temperatures again down to -6, -7 degrees. Not quite as cold as the night just gone by, but it will mark the last night of this particular cold spell. From Friday onwards, we will see an improvement in conditions and with that a rise in temperatures as well. So getting up to near normal values for the weekend, about 6 to 8 degrees Celsius.
Police in Derry and Strabane are continuing to appeal for information in relation to a missing woman. They believe 37-year-old Rutendo Bradley, who is 7 months pregnant, may have recently travelled to Derry. However, she was last seen in Ipswich, England, just before Christmas. They say she may also have links to Aberdeen. Anyone with information on Rutendo's whereabouts is asked to contact police on 101. A Donegal TD says developing more local facilities, such as a new health centre opening today in Dunfanaghy, will ensure people can receive care closer to their homes and ultimately relieve some of the pressure facing Letterkenny University Hospital. The new centre in Dunfanaghy will provide a base for local GPs and additional services such as diabetes clinics. Deputy Pat the Cope Gallagher says the development in Dunfanaghy is an example of how better care can be provided when services are expanded locally.
It makes sense when this allows patients to be treated in the community, then they can receive rapid access to care, and that means that there'll be less going to A&E. This will be vitally important to hopefully reduce the delays at Letterkenny, and this is the whole idea of having health centres such as these.
Weather now very cold this morning with widespread frost and ice lingering. Rather wet too, with scattered wintry showers drifting over in a cold northerly breeze. Sunny spells will develop later as showers ease, but staying bitterly cold with highs of 0 to 4 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
It's easier to get healthier this January with the right support. The Irish Life GAA Healthy Clubs Challenge is helping communities get active. Every step you take could help your local GAA club win a cash prize. There's €30,000 up for grabs. Just download My Life, the free health and wellbeing app. Register, join the challenge, and start tracking your steps today. A better life with Irish Life. The My Life app is provided by Irish Life Financial Services. Terms and conditions apply. See irishlife.ie/mylife.
And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest. The 9 to Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello and a very good morning to you. You're very welcome along to the 9 till noon show on this Thursday. It's the 9th of January and it's just 4 minutes past 9 here from the northwest of Ireland. Thanks very much for your company. Hopefully you'll keep us in mind for the next 3 hours. We'll keep you up to date on the weather if we need to. It is snowing again here at the mountaintop, so things might develop over the course of the next 3 hours, but we've got so much more to keep you informed and hopefully entertained. We want you involved in the conversation throughout, so I'll invite you please to WhatsApp and text the show 086 60 25,000. If you're watching from outside the Republic, 0035386 60 25,000. Feel free to send in your voice notes. Maybe that suits you better and it's a better way for you to interact with us. We're more than happy to receive those. If you want to give us a call, Caroline's taking your calls, assisted by Shannon this morning, 074 91 25,000. And if you want to email, it's comments@highlandradio.com. And a hello to you if you're listening to the podcast or listening overnight to the repeat. Feel free to email as well. We'll pick them up and include them in the next live show. And I will remind you that you can watch the show live. There's a watch live button on the website, highlandradio.com. We're on YouTube, Highland Radio Ireland, which means you can also watch us on your smart TV or your Fire Stick if that suits you at home or wherever you are. And also across Facebook, just type in Highland Radio. We're not hard to find and we're streaming on the X platform throughout the world as well. Let's see what's making the headlines and inside some of the newspapers today. And we'll start with the Tyrconnell Tribune. With nominations for the 5 Seanad panels already closed, there are 7 Donegal candidates in the field. Councillor Jimmy Kavanagh got a nomination at the request of Taoiseach Simon Harris on the Labour panel, where 11 seats are to be filled, with John McNulty already running on the agricultural panel and 11 seats to be filled. Fine Gael will be optimistic of having 2 seats in the upper house, and in some ways it will lay the foundations for rebuilding the party that in November struggled to hold 9% of the vote. Fine Gael has been left without a TD in Donegal for the first time ever, and the selection of 2 runners will be seen in party ranks as a positive move, despite the fact Harris only made a fleeting visit to Letterkenny at the height of the election campaign. But he has engaged quite a bit with Donegal outside of that. He was on with us 2 or 3 times as well, so I presume he's blending a mixture of physical and media interactions. The Derry People Donegal News points out that Letterkenny University Hospital services are under strain, and it seems to be perpetually the case. Winter pressures, respiratory infections and the recent cold snap have driven up capacity levels at Letterkenny University Hospital, with every available bed in use and elective surgeries postponed. 170 people presented to the hospital emergency department on Monday, 54 of whom arrived by ambulance, with a significant number arriving after 6 p.m. 9 ambulances were backed up outside the hospital's emergency department on Monday night for a time waiting to hand over patients. The hospital is postponing a number of elective procedures due to a lack of bed capacity. Patients are being contacted directly if the procedure is being postponed, which is another regrettable element of overcrowding. The Derry News this morning: Derry and Strabane District Council has been urged to support the ongoing Palestinian boycott, divestment and sanctions campaign. Speaking at Tuesday's meeting of the Council's Governance and Strategic Planning Committee, Chair of Derry ISPCC, Catherine Hutton, described the city's prominent status as an apartheid-free zone as mere window dressing. Ms Hutton said there's little evidence of the Council reflecting the commitment it has made in supporting Palestine. Let's go on to the Nationals now, and you might remember earlier in the week we were talking about a government commitment not being delivered on, and this was HRT drugs being made free for women that needed them, of course, or who were receiving them, who were likely to receive them. And the government stance at that point was that it is going to happen, but in the future at a date yet to be determined. But more details of what might be holding up and the row and the different parties that are involved in it are covered in the papers today. And pharmacies may be forced to reveal how much they charge in dispensing fees for HRT medicine after the Department of Health said it was deeply concerned that customers are being kept in the dark. a row has broken out between the department and the Irish Pharmacy Union over the rollout of free hormone replacement therapy for women, which was supposed to start on January the 1st. Now, the department said pharmacies and pharmacists are trying to scupper the scheme, but the IPU said it was impossible for pharmacies to provide the scheme due to significant implementation gaps, which is what we heard from our local pharmacist earlier in the week. In an internal briefing prepared by the Department of Health and circulated to senior political figures in recent days, it blames pharmacists for the delay in the rollout of the scheme. The department is now investigating whether there is an onus on pharmacies to reveal their professional fees, which it is claimed are as high as €10 per product for some medicines. Health Minister Stephen Donnelly, who lost his seat in the general election, announced $20 million for the scheme as part of Budget 25. Laws were passed before the last Dáil was dissolved that paved the way for the scheme to be implemented. Mr Donnelly previously said he had two options in how the initiative was rolled out. One was to limit it to certain age groups and cover dispensing and GP fees. The other was to introduce it to all women to cover the cost of the medicine. So the government placing the blame, it seems, at the shop door of pharmacies. The Irish Times this morning, there's been an increase in the misuse and abuse of the state's monthly payment for those accommodating Ukrainian refugees in their homes and private properties. A charity that oversees the pledging of housing has warned Helping Irish Hosts, the grassroots charity formed in 2022 to support people seeking to host displaced Ukrainians, contacted the government last year to warn it had logged an increased number of incidents where the accommodation recognition payment was being misused. The ARP is a tax-free monthly payment of €800 for those providing accommodation to Ukrainians who arrive in Ireland under the EU Temporary Protection Directive. Documents released under a Freedom of Information request reveal HIH found some hosts were receiving top-up payments, raising concerns about tenancy rights and tax obligations. Now, I thought it was common knowledge that a lot of landlords or people receiving the €800 were getting top-up payments. I didn't believe this to be something that was requiring a Freedom of Information Act. It just goes to show, I thought the dogs in the street knew this was happening. But anyway, it was revealed in a Freedom of Information. Other issues such as market distortion and potential exploitation have surfaced, it warns, in its pre-budget submission to the Department of Integration in September. So as I say, apparently this is being revealed today, and I just thought that was common knowledge that some were receiving a top-up from their tenants on top of the €800 tax-free. This is a story that was around over the Christmas period. We were off air and it's covered again in the Irish Daily Mail, so I thought it worth a read. The world-famous Donegal tweed weavers are calling for a special protected status for cloth as the craft industry battles cheap imitations by rogue traders. Under new EU rules, non-food and drink products will receive the same protection designation as products such as sparkling wine from Champagne in France or ham from Parma in northern Italy, which must be from their named place. Fianna Fáil TD and former Junior Minister Pat the Cope Gallagher is to ask Enterprise Minister Peter Burke to introduce the EU PGI framework to protect the Donegal tweed brand from rogue traders branding their tweed pieces as Donegals. So you can see the problem here. Some people are naming their tweeds Donegals, but it's not from here at all. Next thing you'll be telling us, they're selling battered fish that purports to be from Donegal but isn't. But anyway, PGI, or protected geographical indication, shields certain brand producers from rival producers who use misleading methods to sell similar products that are not the genuine article. So I think that's a decent shout, isn't it? If it's not tweed, sourced and made in Donegal, it shouldn't have the name Donegal tweed on it. So hopefully they're successful in that campaign. The Irish Farmers Journal this morning: the sale of cows from herds that have had TB could be severely restricted for 3 years after the herd is clear of the disease, the Irish Farmers Journal understands. The radical new proposal from the Department of Agriculture would apply to herds of at least 50 cows and would be triggered where 5% or more of a herd's cows, or at least 10 cows in larger units, are TB reactors. Under the proposed changes, affected herds would only be permitted to sell cows directly for slaughter or to controlled finishing units. during the 3-year restricted period, so they couldn't move them amongst farmers. If agreed, this would severely curtail the trading of cows through March, as you can imagine. So it's for herds over 50. I'm not sure how prevalent that is here in this part of the world, but what do you think about that? Maybe you're in the community, maybe that may affect you or members of the farming community. Let us know. Fires are raging across the world. At least 2 people were reported killed yesterday as wildfires tore through Southern California. Residents evacuated from Pacific Palisades and Pasadena, Malibu and Calabasas as fire inferno spread. The Palisades blaze alone was devouring land at the rate of 5 football pitches per minute in what is which is an affluent coastal neighbourhood. It doesn't bother me whether it's rich or poor people, but anyway. University of California climate scientist David Swain said it is plausible that the Palisades fire will become the costliest on record. And it is quite interesting because I watched a bit of an interview with Donald Trump and Joe Rogan, the podcaster. And this was before the election, and he talked about the lack of water in this area, and he also talked about the fact that water, which would be flowing naturally in this direction from Canada, was being diverted out into the sea. He said that was a terrible waste. And now what we are finding is that the fire service is struggling to get water to tackle the blaze. They have zero control over these fires by their own evidence. But also he talked of in that interview the fact that the forests weren't being managed, and for green reasons, in inverted commas, the forests weren't being protected from the potential of fire. And here we are a short few months later, and it seems like he's been proven correct in that regard. Just if you are travelling, by the way, I'm looking out the window, and very heavy snowfall here at the mountaintop in Letterkenny. So other high areas of the county may be facing similar, so just be careful if you are heading out. What do you think about this move by Ryanair? This is the Irish Daily Mirror. Ryanair will now file legal proceedings against disruptive passengers, the airline has confirmed. Now, I know this was covered yesterday, but the papers are picking it up today. The company is claiming €15,000 in damages against a person who was on a flight between Dublin and Lanzarote last year. Ryanair contends their behaviour forced the flight to divert to Porto, where it was delayed overnight and caused 160 passengers to face unnecessary disruption, as well as losing a full day of their holiday. The airline has described the passengers' behaviour as inexcusable and completely unacceptable. It also said the €15,000 figure comes from the cost of overnight accommodation, passenger expenses and landing costs. Ryanair said it has a strict zero-tolerance policy towards passenger misconduct, adding it will continue to take decisive action to combat unruly passenger behaviour on aircraft. Have you ever been on an aeroplane where someone's gone off? And I'm not sure if it had to be landed or diverted, but what's it like? Have you ever had that experience? Ryanair, of course, and I'm not saying this is to do with booze, Ryanair is continuing to campaign for a limit on the amount of alcohol served in airports, because obviously sometimes people get on the planes drunk and cause issues. They're happy enough to sell it on the planes, but they don't want it sold on the airport. Would you be in favour of maybe a 1 or 2 drink limit in the airport, or do you think it's up to you what you do? Finally, if you are planning a wedding, plastic willies and male strippers at hen do's are being ditched in favour of escape rooms and axe throwing. Stags are also shunning booze and strip clubs, research reveals. Party organisers last night of Freedom, which arranges thousands of bashes a year, said not one male stripper was booked for any of the bridal events in 2024. Group shows featuring hunky butlers in the buff were also down nearly 70%. Yet bookings for immersive experiences such as escape rooms, karaoke booths, cocktail making and mini golf rocketed by 270%. So it's more cocktails and less plastic willies and male strippers, more karaoke, etc. That was in the Irish Sun. It makes sense too. It's less seedy, less, isn't it? I don't know, but it's all fun. Whatever you want to do, you're all adults. Okay, the 9 till noon show here in Highland Radio. We're with you to 12.
Daily newspapers are courtesy of Cosgrove, Centra and Diner, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
The 9 till noon show, brought to you by Kelly's Toyota. With over 50 years of experience, trust us to help you on your electric journey.
Visit Century Complex for a perfect family day out. Kids will love exploring Century Play. Hours of fun at our brand new indoor Crazy Golf. Lots of tasty options available in Backstage Bar and Grill. And at Century Cinemas, we're showing comedies, actions and adventure movies. Get in touch on 074 9121 or visit centurycinemas.ie for more information.
Is fear heist the méireacht isha ar na gohu ag astor. Bhfuil an go háir do dhuine ar bic go smaoinóí a bhac nó a inín ar PLC a dhéanamh. Mar is céim Harbheith fiúntachaí gan áras.
Fálam gan teornacha le breise dechas agus a lúnt. Aimse de chóirsa ag thisisfet.ie. Arna hacu ag rialtas na hÉireann agus ag solas.
Why settle for a happy new year when you could have a hybrid new year with the new Nissan Qashqai with e-Power? Relaxation and excitement, spacious and sleek, safe, smooth, serene, and thrilling, adventurous, and of course efficient. Make 2025 a hybrid new year with the new Nissan Qashqai with e-Power. Hybrid driving reinvented. Nissan, defy ordinary. Terms and conditions apply.
Ready to transform your smile? Discover the magic of Blue Poppy Dental in Letterkenny and Donegal Town. With implantologists, surgical and cosmetic dentists, orthodontists and an endodontist all under one roof, we've got all your dental needs covered. Starting your journey is easy. Call us on 074 91 20355 or book your appointment online anytime through our user-friendly patient portal at bluepoppydental.com. Blue Poppy Dental and Orthodontics, where smiles shine brighter.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is?
It's 20 minutes past 9. Very tragic news emerged late yesterday evening, and that was that Gardaí and Buncrana are investigating all of the circumstances surrounding the death of an adult male. This follows the discovery of a body at a vacant property in Dundrain, Burnfoot, at around 2:30 p.m. yesterday afternoon. Now, the deceased has not yet been identified, but he has been removed to the mortuary at University Letterkenny Hospital for a post-mortem, and I imagine that the investigations will continue at the scene of this discovery, but also the results of that post-mortem, as is course, will determine the course of the Garda investigation. So details are limited at this point. Councillor Jack Murray is the Cahirlock of the Inishowen Municipal District, and Jack, obviously, condolences with this to this gentleman's family, but at this point, unfortunately, we don't know who he is or who his family is. So someone, unfortunately, is going to be getting very bad news over the next number of hours or days. Incredibly sad.
Yeah, as you said, it's an extremely tragic news to break yesterday evening, and very, very sad. The local community is just absolutely in shock, and as you said yourself, information is very scarce at the minute. We don't know the circumstances of this poor man's death, but nonetheless, this is a very, very tragic incident to be visited upon our community, and just whoever this man is, won't say his name, but his family, our thoughts are with him at such a horrible time.
Yeah, and as I say, we don't know the cause of this man's death, but I mean, obviously it's very cold lately. It's possible, and the Gardaí will determine this if someone was trying to get shelter. I don't know, but that's certainly something I'm sure the Gardaí will be looking into.
Yeah, no, look, it was a vacant house. They have said that, so we can't assume the cause of this poor man's death, but it nonetheless would serve as a reminder. Just check on your neighbours, check on any house in your local area. The temperatures have plunged to very, very dangerous levels. So whether or not it's the cause of this poor man's death, it serves a reminder to everybody in the community. Just look out for your neighbours, look out for elderly people, look out for anybody who could be vulnerable during these very, very dangerous temperatures.
Yeah, for sure, and I'm sure it's a great deal of shock in the local area, Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, as soon as the news broke, as the Gardaí released the press release last night, I'm sure my phone and everybody else in the local area was hopping. Just who is this poor man? Do we know any information? But information is scarce. But regardless, a man has lost his life last night. That's all we know, and it's extremely tragic and very, very sad.
And we'll await direction from Gardaí to see what happens next. Okay, thanks for your time, Councillor Jack Murray, Cahirlock of the Inishowen municipal district there. Just to recap the details of that, and they are limited at this time, as you can imagine. But Gardaí and Buncrana, they've launched that investigation into all circumstances surrounding the death of an adult male. It's following the discovery of his body at that vacant property in Dundrain, Burnfoot, at around 10:30 yesterday afternoon, but details didn't emerge until the evening. As we mentioned there, the deceased has not yet been identified, but his remains have been removed to the mortuary at Letterkenny University Hospital for a post-mortem examination. Now, the Office of the State Pathologist and the local coroner has been notified, of course. The scene remains preserved for a technical and forensic examination, and the results of the post-mortem, as I mentioned to Councillor Murray there, will assist Gardaí in determining the course of the investigations. Now, if you have any details that might help in relation to this, you really are encouraged to contact Buncrana Garda Station on 074 9320 540. For whatever reason, if you prefer to do that in confidence, you can contact the Garda Confidential line 1800 666 111. Now, just to an email, and I wanted to take a moment to express my gratitude for having someone discuss endometriosis on your platform. As someone who's lived with this condition, I can attest to how debilitating and painful it can be. Unfortunately, there remains a lack of awareness around it, and even many GPs are not adequately educated on the matter. It is truly refreshing to see such important women's health issues being addressed, issues that are often not talked about enough. Hearing Karen discuss both endometriosis and menopause was incredibly insightful. So many women, including myself, are experiencing these challenging symptoms without knowing where to turn for help. Knowing that there is supported information out there is truly heartening. Thank you once again for shining a light on these critical topics. I sincerely hope you continue to feature discussions around women's health, and bring in healthcare professionals to provide valuable insights. And it is something we are always do very actively here on this programme throughout the course of the year, and I'm sure this year will be no different. Okay. It looks like it could be at least the 22nd of this month before there is a new government in situ. Discussions are ongoing. John McAteer, editor of the Tyrconnell Tribune, is with me this morning to discuss this. Hi, John.
Hi, Greg. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you. Great to see you again, John. I suppose we shouldn't be surprised, should we, that the talks are taking so long. Obviously, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael are very close to a majority themselves, but they do need support, and there's a bit of horse trading going on. It's clear Labour, the Soc Dems, they didn't want to go in, they're out, so it's down to Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and independents.
Exactly. We don't know how long that's going to take, because from what I understand from talking to a number of TDs yesterday, it's not going to happen on the 22nd because there's going to be nothing ready. For one point alone, any programme for government has to come back to the parliamentary parties. It has to be approved there, and after that it goes out to the constituency delegates to hold their particular meetings to rubber stamp it. So it's not going to happen on the 22nd. It may be a couple of weeks later at the earliest. But so much probably work remains to be done. The heavy lifting, as they say, the heavy departments, and indeed to get down to who is going to get what, the horse trading that will go on there, who remains in what position. Do they bring Stephen Donnelly back in? Because there's a caveat there in the Constitution, and Donnelly's name was mentioned shortly after he lost his seat. But the Taoiseach is he is entitled to nominate 2 senators as part of the constitutional remit for the Senate. He's entitled to appoint 2 of them to cabinet. Speculation there is being mentioned that Donnelly could easily be one of those.
How does that play with the public, though, given that the whole point of the democratic process is to elect people, but if you don't believe they're doing the job that they were elected for, you can deselect them? He was deselected by the people. How might it play out if he ends up still as a senator with a seat at the table?
That's the tricky one. It'll not play out very, very well, but I mean, once the election is over, it's out of our hands. It'll probably be talked about for 10 days or thereabouts, and Stephen Donnelly may have no interest in coming back anyway, but it may well be that he does, because he has been in health. Has he done a good job there? The jury will be out on that. He probably has given it his best shot in in this myriad of circumstances that surround the Department of Health and indeed the lack of hospital beds and the lack of investment in infrastructure, because the country is growing. I mean, by the next election, the country will be way past 5.6 million people. And all that's going to mean to us that we'll have another 20 TDs. And this is where we're at here. I suppose the reality here is that the whole workings of government requires a whole inside overhaul of how business is done. The government departments need to be broken up, and that's accepted. When you look at Eamon Ryan was in charge of the environment, climate and transport, that didn't make an awful lot of sense.
Well, there are conflictions there, aren't there? He's
Totally,
he's trying to reduce how much fuel we use, but at the same time has oversight on capacity at Dublin Airport. I know it's a bit more convoluted than that, but basically it does feel on the face of it like a conflict.
It does seem like a conflict, but he probably done a reasonably good job out of it in the circumstances, given that Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael were not all that keen on the message that he was delivering. But now they're in there without a minister of his calibre, so they have nobody with any experience to take over that portfolio, and that's going to become a very, very important one in the new Dáil, because we're nowhere near meeting our 30% for reduction of emissions. In fact, we mightn't be to 20%. And the ambition was to have it at 0% by 2050. That's not happening. I mean, back 4 to 5 years ago, the whole buzzword was EV cars, 1 million of them on the roads and all this kind of thing. In fact, there's less of them on the roads because people haven't got the confidence to buy into them, and maybe they can't afford them.
Well,
and
the charging infrastructure is a big issue because people want to have the confidence to travel. And I've done too many interviews on this show about another 20 million being invested in the charging infrastructure, another 20, and nothing ever came of it. It's quite frustrating. And if I was selling those cars, I would be very frustrated. Much was said in the general election campaign about the importance of having a minister in Donegal, and that was a big feather in the cap of Charlie McConalogue. We see that Fine Gael seem very interested on the agricultural portfolio, and maybe that's another department that could be broken up a little bit, because I think some of the rural independents are interested in fisheries and what have you. What does that mean, do you think, over the course of the next couple of weeks? What does that mean in terms of the chances of this county retaining a minister in the department he currently is in, or at all for that matter?
I think it's vital that Donegal retains the agricultural portfolio. Charlie McConalogue has done extremely well there. Very difficult circumstances because you're trying to you're wearing different hats all the time. You're trying to deal with emissions, and the agri industry is getting an awful lot of blame because there's so many cattle in the country. And on the other hand, then he's also in charge of the marine. There shouldn't be anything particularly wrong with that. There are junior ministers in there, but like at the end of the day, I think Charlie McConalogue has been a very positive influence in Donegal politics, and it would be regrettable should he lose his seat. The only thing
his seat at the cabinet table, I presume you're talking of. Do you believe he will retain a cabinet position?
I don't see why not. But I mean, the horse trading that will go on there over the next couple of weeks for jockeying for position, we haven't heard very much about that there because they have not got anywhere near that there. There's going to be changes, obviously, and probably very big changes. You may see some of the big names. There are vacancies there, as I said. Stephen Donnelly's gone, Heather Humphreys is gone. Those are very, very key, very, 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 very key portfolios. And at the end of the day, some of them are there a long time. I would imagine that Jennifer Carroll McNeil will be coming into the cabinet, that Derek Cleary will be coming back in there, probably Peter Burke, who he's always been tipped for that in recent years. You may see 6 or 7 major changes. You'll see some departments broken up. There'll be more junior ministers, but I don't know how many junior ministers they can have. We don't know how many junior ministers is available there. But I would imagine that the independent group, we haven't heard too much from them because we understand that they've not yet been at the discussion table. And they're going to they're going to be very agreeable to everything at the moment, and that it'll remain that way until they start divvying up the different positions. And there'll be 6 or 8 of them. They'll all expect at this point to be considered. They may be looking for 2 more junior ministers or 2 more senior ministers as well. They'll be looking for a super junior, because the Green Party had 3 pretty senior ministers. They had Eamon Ryan, and they had Catherine Martin and Roger Gorman. So those were important ministries. They also had a super junior, and they had 3 juniors. So like they had 7 key positions. So far, Verona Murphy is the only one of that independent group who has got what is the plump position of Cancoria. So like we're going to have to wait and see how that divvies up, and indeed how departments are going to be broken up, because how much of that can you do? We seem to have money to do a whole lot of things, but housing and health are still going to be the key issues that have got to be resolved.
Yeah, and it's how to make that money work, I think, is the great challenge, and the government that sorts that out, how to transfer that money into improvements in people's lives.
Yeah.
What's the story with Charles Ward, the 100% redress TD? I haven't seen his name involved in any of the horse racing negotiations. I don't believe he's part of that independent group that is potentially going to be the group, along with the Healy race, that keeps the government in power. So unless he's in those negotiations, it's going to be hard for him, of course, to negotiate anything that would bring those affected closer to 100% redress.
Yeah, you see, that's very true. The independent group, in all shades and sizes, are a group of about 23 or 24 TDs. But there's a group of 6 or 7 there, led by Michael Lowry. He is going to be the kingmaker there. Oh, that I have no doubt. Michael Lowry's in politics 46 years. He's been down these roads before, and he has done quite well so far in getting Verona Murphy in there. It's a position that you couldn't have imagined Fine Gael or Fianna Fáil allowing to go, given the kind of money that's for it. It has a lot of prestige as well. So they will settle for a lot less to get the government up and running. But I don't see that happening on the 22nd of January. And indeed, the last time we went from mid-February until the middle of June, over what seemed like very, very little at the end of the day.
Right.
I mean, the buzzword the last time was global warming and all that. It was housing and it was health.
Yeah.
It still is.
We may well come back to that. I want to go to the Shannon, and it's a complex voting system. There are 7 Donegal people contesting seats on various panels. 5 of them are based in Donegal. John McNulty, Agricultural Panel, Eileen Flynn, Administrative Panel, Micheál Naughton, Industrial and Commercial Panel, Jimmy Kavanagh, Label Panel, Niall Blaney, Agricultural Panel. I believe that's the 5 I've mentioned there. First and foremost, who votes in which panels? It might be too complex for us to go through it all at the moment, but who's actually electing these people?
It's kind of straightforward. The incoming TDs, the 174 of them, the outgoing senators, the 60 of them, 6 of them will be voting on the university panels. So the Taoiseach has 11 of a choice. So there are 43 seats on those panels. Culture and Education has 5 seats. Labour has 11. Agriculture has 11 as well. Industrial and Commercial has 9. And Administration has, 5 or thereabouts. So I think there's about 125 people in there. I haven't read the nominations since the close, but it's in and around that there. But it's a very archaic system of voting, in that the votes get broken down and then are they're counted in multiples of 1,000. Like, for instance, Niall Blaney the last time would have had a strong position at 5.2. What that is, I'm not too sure. It may well be that it is the quota, or else the valid poll on that panel, broken down in percentages and then multiplied by 1,000. So Niall Blaney ended up on 58,000 and he won that seat comfortably. Donegal can be expected to get a couple of senators here. Jimmy Kavanagh there is got the nod from Simon Harris, so that has to have some credibility with voters down the country. I think at this point it's a bit late in the day, because The ballot papers issue next Wednesday. Counting begins after 11 o'clock on the 30th. But after next Wednesday, going around visiting the 949 councillors could be a real lottery, because all they have to say to you is, sorry about that, I've just filled in my ballot paper, I can't help you.
Is that where the likes of the appointment from for Jimmy Kavanagh might benefit him, in that obviously it gives him an advantage that he's a Taoiseach pick, or not a Taoiseach pick, or Simon Harris pick?
That's as close as it gets. He's on the inside panel, and that he's been elected with the approval of the Taoiseach, and he has the Oireachtas members required to back him. So he'll be one of those. John McNulty is on the agricultural policy or party as well. He should be in with a fair shout there, because party politics does go out the window, on the Senate elections, because the councillors are all being lobbied, and they're all looking for their own agendas to be addressed. And party politics, as I say, just doesn't really matter to them, or what the leadership says doesn't matter all that much to them. But you'd expect Donegal to have a number of senators this time around. Fianna Fáil has Niall Blaney there. It's the second time. And Michael Naughton is running again on the Irish Hotels Federation panel. Well-known figure. Be interesting to see, is he in close to winning that there? You have Robbie Gallagher from Termon, who's running in Monaghan. He's living in Monaghan. He's based there, and he'll be expected to win.
And Danny Byrne?
Danny Byrne from Bruckner's is based in Dublin, Fine Gael councillor in Dublin. But we can't elect the 7 of them this morning, by the way.
Okay.
If we get 3, we'd be doing very well, I would imagine. We probably never had 3 before. But it adds a bit of interest to it, in that we have a renewed interest in the Senate.
If I'm reading your mood music correctly, you would be optimistic, or not optimistic, but you'd be predicting Niall Blaney and Jimmy Kavanagh in a strong position. If you mentioned we could have 3, then who is the third? Micheál Naughton. He's got a lot of influence, of course, and he's very well known across the country in business and sporting circles. Would he be the third, most likely, in your view?
I think so, yeah. I think so. Fianna Fáil will put a fair push in there to get him over the line. There's no reason that they'd have to do that. But you see, how many others have there to give a fair push to get over the line for a whole lot of different reasons? As I say, it's a pretty archaic system. You have 949 councillors, you have 174 TDs, and the outgoing members of the Senate. So,
in relation back to the government formation talks, what I would like to see, and it doesn't matter to me which party is or isn't or whatever, is I would like to see in full and costed the deal with independents. So I would like to see who's promised what, how much it might cost, when it's expected to be delivered. It'll be clear, of course, who gets which roles. If some of those are up for grabs, but I would really like to know how much this deal would cost the taxpayer, who gets what and where, how much is Kerry getting, for an example, and so on and so forth. Am I naive to want that level of openness and transparency in politics in 2025?
Just doesn't happen. It just simply does not happen that way, Greg. We might be all a wee bit naive and a bit green behind the ears on these things here, but like, these deals are done out of our sight and out of view. The Healy Rays will exact a fair price for their support, and that support from independents can never be guaranteed. We're not clear if the independents or a group of them are going to approach this with a single kind of strategy of backing the government across all their programmes. Hard to see that a group of, say, 8 independents is going to back the government and accept their policies, given that these are individual candidates with their individual agendas down the years. The likes of Sean Canny and Marion Harkin and people like that, they've been around politics for a very, very long time. But Michael Lowry is going to be the kingmaker there, and he's going to drive a very, very hard deal. And I think he'll get it because he seems to have that influence and power.
But just like you say, for instance,
in
Marion Harkin's made a big play of Sligo University Hospital, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
So, like we could find ourselves in a situation that just because she's going to support the government, and this many people from South Donegal go to Sligo, don't get me wrong, but there is a possibility that just because she's supporting the government, that the gap between Sligo University Hospital and Letterkenny University Hospital could widen even further. I mean, I just don't think issues such as health and other very serious matters should be part of horse trading negotiations. I mean, I suppose if I was in Sligo, I'd be going, yay. And I'm not even saying that that's necessarily what her red line might be, right? But you can imagine it's going to be something like that. And it's just, for me, done on the quiet, secretly, behind closed doors, and it could have a negative impact on people. I'm not comfortable with that. Not that
Nobody
that
is.
matters.
Nobody is, but that's politics in Ireland.
Well, maybe the independents say, we'll do these negotiations, but these negotiations have to be published afterwards. Is that not what independent voices are supposed to do? Not have idiots like me trying to call for these things?
The most successful group of independents in any government in my memory, which does stretch back a bit, was the 1997 government led by Bertie Ahern. And they had the 4 independents. They had Tom Gilday, Harry Blaney, Mildred Fox, and Jackie Healy-Rae, the father of the legendary Michael and Danny. A lot of money was delivered, a lot more so than we might have anticipated. And that worked very smoothly and worked very satisfactorily, but each of them had their own individual agenda. Maybe it was just the fact that the 4 of them had a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge in politics, and they knew how to work the system from their lifetime of experience. When you could get Harry Blaney got $6 million for housing in Letterkenny, and he got a bridge over Mulroy Bay, which was quite a big expense. But that was only some of the stuff that they got. So, like, independence can work.
The deflector system, Thomas Gilday got rid of that deflector system. I believe he actually...
He delivered more money as well in South Donegal.
Yeah, that's what he was elected for.
But I'm talking here about, those were 6 individuals, but they were committed to keeping the government in power. That was the one thing about them. Harry Blaney and Jackie Healy-Rae would have come from that very strong Fianna Fáil gene pool back in the day. So they would have a dedication and a commitment to ensure that Fianna Fáil got the heads up, regardless of what the rows might be behind the scenes. And there were plenty of them.
Yeah, a caller says, what's the situation with Senator Nikki Bradley? Is she running again? Thanks. My understanding is she's taken a step back from politics.
I have no idea now. She's not on any of the panels. She's not contesting the election. And I don't think she has made any statements on it. But we'll see. I think there's going to be huge challenges facing this government because, like, as far as the climate action and is concerned, we're facing massive fees of between 8 and 20 billion by 2030. If we don't step up to the mark and start implementing some of those
the tough decisions, yeah.
The nitrates directive is this time next year. It'll be either here or it won't be here. There's going to be a huge amount of lobbying and meetings to hold on to that.
Well, it was said. Directive. Is there though? Because I heard a government a government minister speaking over Christmas, and obviously agriculture wasn't his portfolio. And he says, and obviously we're going to lose the nitrates directive soon, so we have to prepare for that. Do you know what I mean? It was in the context of a broader conversation, and maybe it was a slip of information, but I thought it was very insightful. He says, well, we're going to lose the nitrates directive, so we have to prepare for that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, I mean, are we being idiots here and thinking, oh, we're going to battle hard for it, when really the writing's already on the wall, and we're just going to be fed a load of nonsense for the next couple of years that we're battling to retain something?
It's an uphill battle. The decision will be made for the 1st of January next year, and that's going to be it. If we lose our nitrates directive, our farming will be all the poorer because we'll not be able to use the kind of fertiliser quantities or qualities that we have been using. And that is going to have a very, very negative impact, especially on smaller farms out in rural Donegal. You know, that we were up at 270, we're down to 220 now, and the next thing, it'll be gone, it'll be down under 170, and it'll dictate, especially on small farms, that you won't be doing very much farming, or that you won't be doing very much cattle rearing, and that'll be a tragedy if that was to be lost in rural Ireland, because we don't have an awful lot out here, you know.
We don't, John.
Apart from snow falling down.
Snowfall, the Tyrconnell Tribune and Highland Radio.
Yeah. I know,
and snow. All right.
So it's amazing.
Great to see you again. Looking forward to chatting to you throughout 2025, John.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you. I did the swimming New Year's Day. I didn't make the papers. I hope you were sent a picture of me, and even if you framed it and put it up on your wall, I just didn't make the paper. I was quite disappointed.
Well, when I go off here now, the first thing, my top priority is to find that picture and put it in upside down.
You're a buck. John, lovely to see you. Have a great 25. We'll chat again. God bless you.
Thanks, Greg.
All right, bye-bye. And the Tyrconnell Tribune is out now, today, with some speculation on what we've just been talking about. Okay, we're going to take a break. Back in 4 minutes with the weather.
The 9 till noon show, brought to you by Kelly's Toyota, Port Road, Letterkenny. Stockists of a wide range of used passenger and commercial vehicles.
Shop Homeland's January mega deals at your local Homeland or online at homeland.ie. Save 20% of all Royal Canine dry dog food bags. Arigna Fuels Harvest Flame, buy 3 30L bags, get 1 free. And save 20% of all Regatta clothing. All this and more until January 26th. See homeland.ie.
Fídorach Kishan, Shaukorach, Píberach Dylan. Ó híomh na haireachta de caitheann muid argo deargaid ar na rudaí bhfuil tusa passion fuha. Má hacinn de agraicht le aireacht na héireann, beidir go mbeadh tú cáiliche deonta sa áil faoin gcuiste tacaíochta agraichta aireachta. Iarratais oscailtenis ar heritagecouncil.ie/funding le tacaíocht an rointíochta rialtas áitiúil agus aireachta.
Celebrating 50 years, McDade's Bathroom Plumbing Tiles in Buncrana continues to be Donegal's go-to destination for stunning bathroom makeovers. With a vast selection of premium tiles and bathroom products, our showroom is your ultimate one-stop shop for crafting the perfect space. We've earned our reputation through expert advice, unbeatable prices and a dedication to customer satisfaction. Visit our showroom in Cockhill and Buncrana and see why we've been Donegal's top choice for 50 years and counting. Call us at 07493 63050.
Life is unpredictable. That's why I'm letting people know what I want, just in case life takes an unexpected turn. Like thousands, with help from the Decision Support Service, I'm making my enduring power of attorney and advance healthcare directive. There's no time like the present to plan your future. Visit decisionsupportservice.ie for more. Your future self will thank you. The Decision Support Service. My decisions, my rights.
Winter sale now on at Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms, Donegal Town. Amazing prices on made-to-order kitchens, sliding wardrobes and much more. Don't miss your chance to transform your home at unbeatable prices. Book your appointment today at cherrymore.ie or call 07497 25822. Cherrymore, 28 years of adding quality and value to your home. The 9 till noon show. Brought to you by Kelly's Toyota, where you can care for your car with Toyota Relax. Giving you a year's warranty with your service. Terms and conditions apply.
Milford Tiles at Milford Retail Park. Massive January sale is now on. 20% off all tiles in stock, 15% off all bathware, 10% off all wooden flooring. This is the sale of all sales. You've tried the rest, now get the best. Don't miss out. When it's gone, it's gone. Milford Tiles, 083 0910 707.
Something extraordinary is happening across Ireland. First-class rivals are being forged as first-class teammates. Inter-county foes as friends, and old opponents are choosing to have each other's backs. Top club and county players lining out in college and university jerseys to play, challenge, and win together. Electric Ireland is proud to sponsor the Camogie Third Level Championships.
In this week's Business Matters, I'll be speaking with Michael O'Donnell of Killybegs Energy, which makes wood chips, logs and pellets using local sustainable materials and renewable energy. And we'll also hear about a record year for Ireland West Airport. So join me, Chris Ashmore, for Business Matters after the 6 o'clock news on Sunday.
Business Matters on Highland Radio is brought to you by Local Enterprise Office Donegal. If you have an idea to start or grow your business within Donegal, contact the Local Enterprise Office to find out more about the supports available for businesses. See localenterprise.ie/Donegal.
Atlantic Travel is ready to book your cruise. Book early to secure the best price and best available cabins, including those limited family suites. See and sail the Greek Isles, cultural cities of Italy and the Croatian coastline, or venture further afield to to Asia and Japan, or an Alaskan adventure. Spread the cost with payment plans. Atlantic Travel Letterkenny, the cruise experts, having sailed extensively with all major cruise lines.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhinney's. It's time to save big with the McElhinney's winter sale. Enjoy up to 50% off fashion, homeware, accessories and more in store and online at mcelhinney's.com today.
Well, it properly snowed for the last hour almost here at the mountain top in Letterkenny, but it's going to be very cold this morning with widespread frost and ice lingering. Rather wet too, with scattered wintry showers drifting over in cold northerly breezes. Sunny spells will develop later as showers ease, but staying bitterly cold. Highs struggling at just 0 in some of the places in our region to 4 degrees. Very cold, but mostly dry tonight with frost setting in. Temperatures -7 to -2 degrees potentially in Donegal, and yet we remain in the orange weather warning. It is what it is. There you go. It is more difficult to get elected to the Shannon, says listener. More difficult than the Dáil. I respect anyone who goes this route. So a new government's to be formed, says listener, and up and running by the end of January. The big question is, how will we ever know what was agreed with the independent? Surely this defeats the purpose of voting independent. Yeah, it's an interesting take on it. And if any of you have views in relation to that, you know, like, I mean, obviously, with parties, there's a certain amount of information you get. I'm not saying there's no transparency, don't get me wrong, but I think people vote independent sort of, you know, maybe to upset the system a little bit, that there's more sort of openness and transparency, yet independents come together as a party, effectively a collective, and then they go into government and, you know, they have a wish list and they get goodies, and we never know what it is, and it could disadvantage us up here, who's to say? But we don't know, and if you don't know, you have to speculate. The independent... Sorry, Greg, who's entitled to vote in the Shannon elections? Is it TDs only? Councillors have a vote, and there are students that have votes, or student members, and it is kind of complex, but John there outlined much of it for us. All right, we asked on our social media, what's your least favourite chore to do around the house? A listener got in touch to say that their least favourite chore is pairing odd socks. What's yours? Let us know. Right, the way I suppose maybe if you use a tumble dryer, it's different. Just a thing on the socks. As you take them out of the washing machine, if you lose a clothes horse, pair them then. That's what we do. Pair them at that point, and then when they dry, you just pick them up and pair them. But there are little gadgets, aren't there, that you can connect the socks as you wash them. Eileen says, buy a packet of safety pins and pin each pair of socks together before you wash them. No odd socks then, problem solved. Well done. Joanne says, I told my hubby I'm only buying black socks from now on so they all match. Joanne, you're stealing that's my thing. I've been talking about this to Lee Gooch for years. I just have the one type of socks, and I never have odd socks. Housework, all of it, Grania, not a big fan. Denise says, actually, my man Santi voucher haul from Penny's gave me idea. About 20 brand new pairs of socks, all plain black. Tell him to stick to the one colour and embrace the idea of vaguely coordinating socks. Lifting the ashes is MJ's least favourite. There's vacuums you can get from that. Are they any good? Denise says, I pair socks all day before I'll iron. Okay, I don't mind ironing. I think if you don't like ironing, you don't have a good iron. I think the key to ironing is a good iron, and if you have a good iron, it makes it much easier. Margaret doesn't like the dusting. Claire, the one and only benefit of kids is the night socks phase. All the same. Yeah, indeed. Elaine, stop. Lol. Honestly, I think the washing machine eats them. That's where her socks are going. Brenda, ironing shirts and men's trousers. Trousers I hate. I've given up on pleats. Breed says, oh my God, it's the worst. Always have loads of odd socks left. Bridget loves pairing socks, hates ironing and washing windows. Dolores, wash the socks as you wear them. It's one option. Shauna, yes, definitely socks. Don't mind if they have a colour in them. Big match with white sport socks of different shapes and sizes. Magella doesn't like hoovering or washing the outside of the windows. Cleaning windows, Mary doesn't like as well. Laura, the bloody sorting of socks. Christopher, everything. All right, that's just some insights. It's off the back of a contact from a listener who says they hate housework, but they hate particularly dealing with the socks. What say you? 086 60 25,000, just for a little bit of distraction from the more serious and important items that we discuss here on the show as well. A caller says, I called the GP this morning for a sick cert and I was charged €20. The last time I was sick, there was no charge. Does anyone know why there is now a charge? Well, I'm sure there's lots of people calling up for sick certs, so maybe it's taking up time, and they've said, right, we'll stick a charge on it. I presume that's normally the pathway to charges, isn't it? Right, stay where you are. Loads coming up over the next couple of hours, but we're going to take a break now as we listen to the news and obituary notices.
The 9 till noon show, brought to you by Kelly's Toyota, Port Road, Letterkenny. Home to a wide range of Toyota commercial vehicles. Your perfect business partner.
Need rapid care for a minor injury or fracture? Why wait when you can be seen today at Kingsbridge Northwest Minor Injuries and Fracture Clinic? See a GP with A&E experience and avail of further scans and surgery with highly trained nurses, radiologists and orthopaedic surgeons on site. Available Monday through to Saturday in Ballykelly for Leia insured and self-paying patients. Visit kingsbridgegpclinic.com today for further information.
If your New Year's resolutions are already struggling, consider taking a leaf out of the GAA fans' Book of Unwavering Commitment. Keep your goals 6.5 metres wide. Commit to shouting at the top of your lungs as often as possible. And focus on counting points instead of calories. The new season is just getting going. Don't miss a moment with a GAA season ticket. Available now on gaa.ie/season ticket. Are you in? The GAA, where we all belong.
Are you doing dry January? Says I to Mr. Brennan. Well, to see, I gave it a go, but I only lasted a couple of days. I mean, a whole month of only eating dry toast when our beautiful fresh Brennan's family pan calls out for butter, for bacon, for sauce, and for delicious fillings of all sorts. Who'd be able? True for you, says I. Sure isn't that why anything baked is better with Brennan's. Today's bread, today.
Hi, Paddy here at Shane Conley Cars in Donegal Town. Are you looking to upgrade your car? With Shane Conley Cars, you'll find makes and models for every budget. Great finance options, and we also accept trade-ins. Check out shaneconleycars.com or call in to us at Shane Conley Cars from Lonaher Road, Donegal Town.
It's time to upgrade your home, refresh your gadgets and grab unbeatable deals at Irwin Expert Electrical. Our January sale is packed with incredible offers on big brands such as Whirlpool, Bosch, Samsung and LG, and Shark and Ninja. Hurry in store to make the most of these limited time deals. And if you're building, buying or renovating, now is a great time to avail of our layaway service. Ask in store for details. Irwin Expert Electrical, Letterkenny and Buncrana.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock. Donald Kavanagh at the news desk. The proposed developer of the site of the Creasla explosion has responded to Donegal County Council's request for further clarification. Vivo Shell Limited has submitted significant further information and revised plans to their planning application to redevelop the site where 10 people lost their lives in an explosion over 2 years ago. With more, here's Michaela Clark.
Donegal County Council in October last requested further clarification from Vivo Shell Limited as the planning application did not comply with what it was seeking. The area roads engineer sought a relocation of the proposed loading area from its location on the N56 to within the extent of the site area. The TII also raised issues with the proposed redevelopment as it varied from official policy in relation to the control of development on and affecting national roads. A revised site layout and road safety audit was submitted to the Council on December the 10th, which makes provision for the loading bay to be located within the site boundary on the shop forecourt. A council engineer has indicated that the new proposed location of the loading bay is satisfactory from the road service point of view. The developer is seeking permission to demolish the existing building and erect a new shop which will include a post office and off licence. The proposed works also include a space for a memorial garden.
A post-mortem is to be carried out today on the body of a man found at a vacant property in Burnfoot. The discovery was made in the Dundrain area at around 2:30 yesterday afternoon. The man hasn't been identified. Gardaí say the results of the post-mortem will determine the course of their investigation. The Coherlook of the Inishowen Municipal District, Councillor Jack Murray, says it's important that people check on neighbours during this current cold snap.
There was a vacant house, they have said that, so we can't assume the cause of this poor man's death, but it nonetheless would serve as a reminder, just check on your neighbours, check on any house in your local area. The temperatures have plunged to very, very dangerous levels, so whether or not it's the cause of this poor man's death, it serves a reminder to everybody in the community. Just look out for your neighbours, look out for elderly people, look out for anybody who could be vulnerable during these very, very dangerous temperatures.
Police in Derry and Strabane are appealing for information in relation to a missing woman. They believe 37-year-old Ruth Tendo Bradley, who is 7 months pregnant, may have recently travelled to Derry. She was last seen in Ipswich, England, just before Christmas. They say she may also have links to Aberdeen. Anyone with information on Ruth Tendo's whereabouts is asked to contact police. A Donegal TD says developing more local facilities, such as the new primary care centre opening this afternoon in Dunfanaghy, will ensure people can receive care closer to their homes and ultimately relieve some of the pressure facing Letterkenny University Hospital. The new centre in Dunfanaghy will provide GP services as well as dental services, public health nursing, physiotherapy, occupational therapy, home support and a number of visiting clinics. An ambulance dispatch site is also located there. Donegal Deputy Pat de Cope Gallagher says the development in Dunfanaghy is an example of how better care can be provided when local services are expanded.
It makes sense when this allows patients to be treated in the community, then they can receive rapid access to care, and that means that there'll be less going to A&E. This will be vitally important to hopefully reduce the delays at Letterkenny, and this is the whole idea of having health centres such as these.
Gardaí are continuing to question a man in his 50s after a major security incident at Dublin's Connolly Station. It follows reports of a passenger with a suspected shotgun on a train from Sligo yesterday evening. With more, here's Emily Keegan.
Gardaí say shortly before 6:30 yesterday evening they got reports of a man on a commuter train arriving into Connolly Station that had been spotted with a suspected gun. He's not alleged to have threatened passengers, but it led to teams of armed Gardaí rushing to the scene while the station was evacuated and services suspended. A security sweep was carried out and a man in his 50s was arrested before the station was later declared safe. Meanwhile, Gardaí say they're aware of fake news being spread online in relation to the incident and are asking the public to independently verify information shared on social media and through messaging apps.
And 5 organisations in Donegal are to share over €750,000 in funding from the Arts Council. In total, 68.5 million has been allocated to 175 organisations, centres and studios across the country. Among the beneficiaries in Donegal are Ungrainen Theatre, the Regional Cultural Centre and the Ergal Arts Festival. Full details on our website, highlandradio.com. Weather forecast very cold this morning with widespread frost and ice lingering. Rather wet with scattered wintry showers drifting over in a cold northerly breeze. Sunny spells developing later as showers ease, but staying bitterly cold with highs of 0 to 4. Tonight again very cold but mostly dry. Frost setting in early. Lowest overnight temperatures -7 to -2 with the lowest temperatures occurring early in the night. Frost, ice and black ice patches are expected. That's Highland Radio News. Back with headlines at 11. In the interim, check all of the latest news on our website, highlandradio.com. But for now, from the news team, good morning.
The obituary notice says for this Thursday morning, January the 9th. The death has occurred of Eamon Boyle, Mina Largan, Glenties. Eamon's remains will repose at Chauvelin Funeral Home, Sandfield, Ardra, today from 4 o'clock until 7 o'clock. Removal from the funeral home tomorrow morning at 10:15 to St Connell's Church, Glenties, for Requiem Mass at 11 o'clock, with burial afterwards in the local cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. The death has taken place in Glasgow of James Cullen, Glasgow and Devlin Ray, Carrigard. His remains are reposing at his sister Mary Ellen's residence. Funeral from there tomorrow morning to the Church of St John the Baptist for Requiem Mass at 11 o'clock, followed by interment in the adjoining cemetery. Family time from 10 o'clock until 11 o'clock and on the morning of the funeral. Mass can be viewed live on the Meva Parish Facebook page. The death has taken place of Kathleen Ward, née Doherty, 32 Main Street, Plumbridge. Kathleen's remains are reposing at her late residence. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 10:30, going to the Sacred Heart Church, Plumbridge, for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family flowers only please, donations in lieu if so desired, to St Vincent de Paul and Mary Curie, care of McGuigan Funeral Directors. Family time only please from 10 o'clock tonight and before the funeral tomorrow. The death has taken place of Nora Hannah Taylor, née McLaughlin, Jackie of Ashford, County Wicklow, and formerly Ross Head, Glengad, Malin, County Donegal. Nora will repose at the William Doyle Funeral Home, Kilcool, tomorrow evening from 6 o'clock until 8 o'clock. Funeral arriving at Ashford GAA grounds on Saturday morning at 22:12 before proceeding to the Church of the Most Holy Rosary, Ashford, arriving for 12 noon funeral mass followed by private cremation. The funeral mass will be recorded and a link posted at 6 o'clock on Saturday evening. The death has taken place of Hugh Ward, 17 Rosemount, Kilmacrennan, formerly Bayview House, KG Burton Porch. Funeral mass in St Columbus Church, Kilmacrennan, this morning at 11 o'clock, followed by cremation in Lakelands Crematorium, County Cavan. Funeral mass can be viewed on churchservices.tv. No wake, house private. The death has taken place of Michael McBride, Mickey Tommy, Largan Ray, Downings. Remains are reposing at his late residence. Funeral from there this morning going to the Church of St John the Baptist, Carrigart, for Requiem Mass at 11 o'clock, followed by interment in the adjoining cemetery. Mass can be viewed live on the Meva Parish Facebook page. The death has taken place of Nancy Robinson, née Armstrong, Drumboy, Newton Cunningham. Her remains will repose at her home today from 2 o'clock until 8 o'clock. Removal from there tomorrow afternoon at 12:30 for 1 o'clock service of Thanksgiving in Newton Cunningham Presbyterian Church, followed by burial in the adjoining graveyard. Family flowers only please, donations in lieu to the Donegal Hospice, care of any family member or Terence McClintock, Funeral Director. Family time please on the morning of the funeral. And the death has taken place of John Anthony Quinn, Curramone, Ballybuffet. Mass of the Resurrection this morning at 11 o'clock at the Church of Mary Immaculate Stranorlar, with burial afterwards in Drumbo Cemetery. House private before the funeral this morning. Flowers welcome, donations in lieu if so desired to the Friends of Letterkenny University Hospital, care of Martin McGuyan, Funeral Director, or any family member. The Requiem Mass will be streamed on churchservices.tv. For family information and more details regarding wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Highland Radio.
How can I help? It's a question I ask my patients every day. It's a question I ask myself. One thing I've learned is that I can help even more when I can easily connect with
physios,
pediatricians, specialists,
nurses,
who are all working with me in a healthcare network that takes a wider view of your health. That's VHI, where healthcare connects. So let me rephrase the question. How can we help?
VHI, because your health means everything.
Text or WhatsApp your view to Greg on 086 60 25,000.
Oh, give us a call. Give us a call, 07491 25,000 if you want to. We were talking yesterday on a serious matter. Saoirse from Donegal Town, she had a warning for people who might start the car and go into the house and warm the car up. You know what I mean? It's a normal thing. We all have done it, I'm sure, at one time or other. But she came out and had quite a distressing experience whereby she found someone sitting in the car. And then it reminded me of my mother, who on a number of occasions, and it was hilarious, got into a wrong car as Dad sat in another car and the diamond bib in the horn saying, Gwen, you're in the wrong car. But anyway, so it's led to other people saying they've done the same and other mishaps, okay? So we want, share your mishaps with us. And if it's something you remain embarrassed about, you know, share it with me, and I promise I'll rid you of your embarrassment by reading it aloud, okay? And you can move on with the rest of your life. But I think often these things make for great anecdotes. But what about this one from a listener? Greg, a few years ago, I did this at a New Year's Eve party. I'd only been to my friend's house once and thought I was in the right house. I put the items for the party on the kitchen table. I poured myself a drink and went into the sitting room and sat down. This woman sat looking at me and says, this woman sits looking at me and I say, where's everyone? And she says, who are you looking for? I nearly died of embarrassment when I realised I was in the house next door. Thankfully, the house owner took it in good spirits. Into the kitchen, laid out his goodies or her goodies, poured themselves a drink and went and sat in the front room with the next door neighbour. Have you had any similar experiences like that? Please share them with us. And if it is something that is still a source of embarrassment for you, allow us to rid you of that embarrassment by broadcasting it on the radio and thus throwing it into the atmosphere. People walking their dogs in Refoe, can we make it a New Year's resolution for dog owners to pick up after their dogs? Now with the snow and ice, it's harder to see it, so you're always on top of it before you know, and it's disgusting. It's one thing we could rid for 25, isn't it? It's the small number of irresponsible dog owners that make dog ownership for other responsible people actually a bit toxic, and it shouldn't. If your dog does a poo on outside, just pick it up and take it home. It's such a simple thing to do, and it will be good for all dog owners as well. That's one thing we could get rid of on 2025 or in 2025. A caller says an independent walks alone and decides what's best for them and their constituents. Being a member of a party means that you have to always toe the party line. I agree to a certain extent, but part of the agreement between this group of independents and the government is that they will support the government on matters such as votes of no confidence, or maybe to get controversial legislation passed. So whilst many independents are like that, Thomas Pringle probably would be a good example of someone who didn't engage in horse trading types of politics. There are those that come together as a group of independents and do commit to support the government in certain areas, as we saw in the last government. So I agree, some independents walk alone and decide what's best for them and their constituents. Others do get together as a collective, call themselves a name, and commit to voting in favour of government, even if it goes against what they believe. Good morning, Greg. So a new year, but alas, nothing has changed. Donegal still the forgotten county. The orange weather warning couldn't even find us. Were we only county remaining yellow? Yes, we were, and I don't get it really, to be honest with you. We had some of the lowest temperatures in the country last night. They can't get it right all of the time, but you know, it's a state agency, Met Éireann, you know. It's not we have people, and we actually tend to use them here, Donegal Weather Channel, Carlow Weather. You know, these are, a lot of them are amateur meteorologists, and I mean that in no negative way. And often their analysis is better than that of Met Éireann, which costs us a fortune. Hi, Greg. I have it from a very good source. The nitrates directive is gone. Watch this space. Well, I heard a government minister say it effectively themselves, or a junior minister. Last night, I witnessed a young boy on a quad bike purposely sliding and skidding on an icy road in Refoe. I know for sure the boy's only 11 or 12 years of age. He was on the main road in the town parks area leading to Mongorry. I was quite shocked at how dangerous this was, not just for him, but for any motorists who were on that road. It was difficult enough to control a vehicle as it was 9 p.m. and the road was slippy. Also, I can't believe the irresponsibility of the parents who felt that this was okay as they were on the footpath egging him on. Confused as to what to do? Should the Gardaí be involved? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe us reading that out, maybe the message will get through. Ringing the guards, bringing that onto people. But then if you didn't and something bad happened, how would you deal with that? We'll throw it out to the family, that 9 till noon show family, and see what they think. Good morning. What can we do with neighbours who leave their dogs outside and they bark all day and most of the night? So selfish, especially in this freezing weather. It's cruel. Why get dogs and dump them outside in the cold and rain and snow and have no perception that you are annoying the peace and quiet of your neighbours? This is out of the countryside, or in the countryside, where we built in order that we can get peace and quiet. Can we complain? And if so, who can we complain to? Again, I'll throw that out to the listeners. I mean, if there's a genuine animal welfare concern, you certainly could contact the IRSPCA, isn't it? The IRSPCA, they might have an interest in it if you feel the animals are being mistreated. In terms of the noise, I'm not sure it's a criminal matter. It's probably a civil matter. Certainly maybe ring the Gardaí and get some guidance from them. A caller says, imagine the benefit to Knock Airport of a train service from Letterkenny to Galway via Sligo. It's time our government woke up to a viable business idea. It would be amazing. It really would. Let me see. We were talking yesterday about Elvis. It would have been his 90th birthday. And apparently, a caller says, Elvis's mother died in her 40s from liver disease caused by the Viking gene alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency, which is very prevalent here in Donegal. Elvis probably had that gene too from his mother. And the texts and comments keep coming in. Shall I do a few requests? I shall. A few requests and announcements, because we love to do them here on this show as well. Will you wish Ozzy Gallagher in Castlefin a very happy birthday from Septa in County Meath? Thank you. Happy birthday, Ozzy. More than happy to do so. Greg, can you read out that the table quiz in Ongrian on Hotel Tonight has been rescheduled for tomorrow night? It starts tomorrow night at 9 p.m. and proceeds go to the Nazareth House Resident Comfort Fund. Greg, can you wish Renee Moore Cashel, Creasla, a very happy 90th birthday today from Sylvia, Thomas and family across in Carragard. Happy birthday, Renee Moore Cashel. I hope you have a fantastic day. Can I play for a request, please, for Jessica Malloy, who's in Glenties and is 10 today. Delighted to have a snow day to celebrate. Love for Mammy, Daddy, Sister Hannah. Jessica, get out, build a snowman, get Mummy to send us in a picture of it. We'd love to see what you're doing with your snow day. Or fluffy socks, blanket and cartoons on the telly. I think that's what I'd be doing. Joseph Ball, Mountaintop Letterkenny. Happy birthday, Joseph, from all your grandchildren. More coming in for Joseph. Happy birthday from all the crew. Looking forward to seeing you in Harry's tonight. What would be going on in Harry's? It sounds like good fun. Rightio, let's take a break for the bingo numbers. Our next guest will be joining us on the show very shortly. And we're going to be talking about a book which focuses on the life of Dr. Tom McGinley, who's founder of the Fall Hospice. Dr. Keith Munro will be joining us very shortly. Here's the bingo numbers.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
It's time for Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Thursday the 9th of January, Jackpot Day. You're playing for the jackpot prize of €9,000 on the pink sheet. The reference number is S9. It's game number 2. The jackpot number is 77. This number can come out in any position from the next 10 numbers drawn. And now, here are your daily numbers. 19, 49, 1, 23, 65, 17, 53, 32, 79, and finally 66. Phone your claim to 9104833 before midnight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your Vision Ireland bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Thinking of getting a new car in 2025? Why not get one in 2026 as well? Buy a selected 251 Nissan and we'll replace it with a 261 Nissan for free. For details about this and all our 251 offers, contact your local Nissan dealer or visit nissan.ie. Nissan. Defy ordinary. Terms and conditions apply.
At Specsavers, we've got hearing devices that can stream music or movies. Ones that are good in crowds, rechargeable battery ones that are good at home, ones that are good in the great outdoors, ones that connect to phones, ones that fit in your ear, ones that fit over your ear, ones that fit in wherever you happen to be. We've even got ones with the latest advanced tech, like the Phonak Infinio Sphere. And they're all available at great Specsavers prices. So book a free hearing check today. OK Hearing is not OK.
Life getting busy? Restore your balance with HelloFresh. So at least dinner time's under control. HelloFresh dinner kits are easier than ever. Cook delicious meals in a few simple steps for home-cooked dinners that everyone will love. HelloFresh. Hello dinner.
The 9 till noon show, brought to you by Kelly's Toyota, where you can test drive our impressive range of hybrid vehicles combining standout styling, an engaging drive and class-leading efficiency.
Now, a new biography of Dr. Tom McGinley is to be launched on the 4th anniversary of the Fall Hospice founder's death in January. Author of Dr. Tom McGinley, founder of the Fall Hospice, is Dr. Keith Munro. And Dr. Munro joins us on the programme now. A very good morning to you, and thank you so much for your time, Keith.
Good morning, Greg. Good morning.
Dr. Tom McGinley needs no introduction really to the people of the Northwest, but still I'm sure there's plenty in your work that people will learn, even though they may believe that they know Dr. Tom McGinley very well. A remarkable character held in such high esteem. Talk to me about Dr. McGinley, I suppose, and how far back into his life do you go in his biography, presumably to the get-go?
Well, right back to the beginning, I was going around with a student as a GP, and we were just leaving a lady who was dying from cancer. And I said to the student, you know, this city needs a hospice. And I went to speak to Dr. Ailby Byrne at that time, who was a consultant geriatrician in Altnagelvin. And I said, Ailby, is there something we should do about this? And he said, smiling, you'd better hurry up because Dr. McGinley started running and started raising money. So I went immediately to see Tom, who I'd known as a GP, but not intimately. I just knew of him. I went over, now this is late 1983. And I said, hello, Tom, I believe you're trying to build a hospice, etc. Can I help? And on that day, he decided to start a steering committee. So we were a steering committee of 2, which expanded very rapidly to 5 or 6. And the first decision that we made then was that to launch a 500,000, $500,000 fund to build an inpatient unit. And that was launched from the Guildhall in January of 84.
Very ambitious right from the get-go. And I suppose you happened to meet and know Dr. McGinley because he was a medical professional. And that happened somewhat by chance. He was born in the Gaeltacht village of Derrybeg and studied...
sorry, can I interrupt you
Please
there?
do.
He was actually born in the Bronx in New York.
Oh, I beg your pardon. He was raised in Derrybeg, wasn't he?
Yes. December the 26th, 1934, he was born. But they came home because of the Depression. And he was raised, as you say, in Derrybeg.
And what was his life in Derrybeg like? What was his interests? What was his education?
Well, he described his life there as almost idyllic because, okay, it was a Gaeltacht village. They spoke Irish as their first language, but he described the rich tapestry of ever-changing images that he had for the rest of his life. And he said there was always the regularity of the tides coming in, going out, dictating the daily routine. So he describes his young days as carefree, golden days when we wanted little and yet we had everything. And that summarized him in that way. But he then won a scholarship to St. Eunan's, where you are, Letterkenny. And from there, he actually won a scholarship to University of Galway. And in those days, Greg, you didn't go and say, I have a scholarship to do medicine, scholarship to do engineering. You just were given a scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
So this was one of the turning points in his life. He went and he didn't know as he walked through the gates what he was going to study.
Wow.
I think in the back of his mind was he had passions for 2 things, dancing and Gaelic football. And I think he wanted to enjoy those during his university life. So he went to the registrar and he said, what's the longest course you've got in the university? And the registrar said, medicine. And Tom says, okay, that'll do.
And I'm sure he was able to pursue his hobbies as well as his studies, because he qualified then and went on to work as a houseman at Altnagelvin Hospital in Derry. This during the early 1960s. Was that straight from college, or did he work in Donegal for a time at all in the intervening time?
Yeah, because when he qualified, he did some. He was in Portiuncula Hospital for a year or two, but he would do some sort of outlying calls, etc., back to Derrybeg and generally the Gweedore area. And they were certainly very happy with him and very proud that one of their own had become, I don't know what it is in Irish, but, a great doctor. And yet he had a yearning to get back after his time in the West, as it were, to within range of, Altnagelvin and his home. So he actually grabbed this job that was up for advertising in the early 60s, and he became a houseman in Altnagelvin. And it was then he was able to join Dr. Fallon and Dr. Vincent Kavanagh on the Strand Road in practice. They were looking for a new partner because the senior partner had died. And here comes the very next point that put him in a certain direction. He was treating a young man at home, Michael Donaghy, in 1965. And he was dying of cancer. He was 18, 19 years old, studying for university. And Tom couldn't handle it. They hadn't been taught how to treat terminally ill people. There were in those days, and I remember that myself, that we were warned not to use too much morphine, keep it to the end, etc. And quite frankly, Greg, hundreds, maybe thousands of people at that time over a period of years died in agony, either in hospital or at home. So he was determined. He was realized that he couldn't treat him properly, and he was determined to never let that happen again to anyone.
And from there, the dream began to form, didn't it? That the area needed a hospice, and that was the seed that led to that conversation that you yourself, Doctor, had with Dr. McGinley. He had already, you had your interest in the establishment of a hospice, and he'd already been thinking about this for quite some time. So it was a perfect marriage at the right time.
Yes, after the Michael Donaghy incident in '65, he determined that he would study anesthetics.
Wow.
He was already doing some sessions at Altnagelvin, but he wanted to come from a position of understanding and knowledge so that he could speak to other GPs, nurses, etc. So he decided that he would study and eventually he acquired the FFARCS, which is the Fellow of the Faculty of the Royal College of Surgeons. Now, what happened though, suddenly out of the blue, a year later in 1966, he became seriously ill. And he was taken to the Royal Victoria Hospital at the time. And his wife then, Deirdre, had to travel up and down to see him. And eventually they said he had sarcoidosis. And even today, there isn't a cure for it, but it does go away. And exercise actually is one of those things that helps. He thought he had cancer at the time, and he was very angry with God. There were a lot of conversations going on. He wouldn't see his children growing up and so on. So he determined, and he was discharged. And then he went to Andy McClay. You probably have never heard of Andy. He's gone now, but he had a gym in Derry on Lawrence Hill, and he went there, and Andy took him over and helped him back to full strength over a number of years, I may say. And he then took up squash, jogging, and his first marathon actually was in 1982. And all the time he had studied for his degree, which he got. And so he was then determined that we would have some new form of palliative care, and he would introduce this. Although we had launched for $500,000 for the inpatient unit, there was another step had to be taken, and that was to create a palliative care service at home. So that was done first.
And Doctor, were the models there for this elsewhere, or was there a uniqueness to the model that you guys worked on and established?
Short answer is I'm not actually sure. There have been one or two hospices for a long, long time. I think there was one in Dublin, and I think probably in England. But in fact, it was only in the late 60s that palliative care in England was being developed. And what Tom did quite early on was to introduce the syringe driver. Tom didn't invent it. It had already been invented, but he brought it. And of course, that revolutionized. Briefly, it's a syringe which injects a small amount of a morphine substance under the skin, and it has a little motor. The syringe is charged up for 24 hours, and it administers something every 7 or 8 minutes under the skin, so that the patient has complete pain-free situation where they can actually be walking around in the hospice. All right, they might have to pull a little stand with them or something.
But
like
they're
that.
not crippled by pain, and they can enjoy what remaining life they may have. So, if the timelines are correct here, correct me if I'm wrong, Doctor. The steering committee was established in '84. And the doors of the hospice opened in '91. That's just 7 years. Are those timelines correct? And if so, what a remarkable achievement with everything that must be achieved to do this in that period of time.
Yes, he was still doing his anesthetics. He was doing his GP work, and he was working to establish home care. That was the first thing. And in fact, it was in 1985 that we bought 9 Crawford Square in Derry as a centre for the home care, and employed the first 2 palliative care nurses. They'll be coming on the night, by the way, when we launch the celebration and my book at the end of the month. And other people from the early days who are still with us are also coming along. But that was the beginning of palliative care. And then we had to get land. And that's a whole story. There's a chapter in my book. I won't go into the details now. It's a fascinating chapter because there were twists and turns you wouldn't believe. And eventually we got what is probably the best site for a hospice in the whole of the United Kingdom. I say probably because I don't know all of them. But we bought the Orange Field, which was about 40 acres owned by the Orange Order for the marching in the late 60s. So eventually, he said to me one day, we were standing up there, and he said, I don't know how to go to the Orange Order because I'm a West Donegal Irish speaker and a Catholic. What should I do? Now, he knew that I was a member of the Baha'i faith, and he said, are you a Protestant Baha'i or a Catholic Baha'i? And I laughed and thought for a minute, and I didn't want to give him a lecture on the Baha'i faith, but I said, no, Tom, I'm a Christian Baha'i. So he went as a Christian, not a Catholic or a Protestant.
And this is all in your book, and this is a man of such stature. I almost feel bad in skipping over things, but that's why you've got this book, and people can and have a deep dive into Dr. McGinley. But just as an insight into the man himself, often we have to pass before people recognise our efforts or what have you, but it wasn't necessarily the case for Dr. McGinley. In 2002, he received a papal knighthood from the Pope John Paul II. Also given the Freedom of Derry in 2014. How was he with dealing with sort of recognition and praise? Because some people aren't fantastic and others, they say, bring it on. How was Dr. McGinley with these types of credits?
Well, I actually quote Deirdre in the book, his wife, and said that he never, ever sought any of these accolades. I have a chapter on accolades. There were a lot more, but you have highlighted two of the ones he was most proud of, but he always dedicated any of these, by saying that it's the people of Derry and the surrounds who built this hospital.
Mm-hmm.
We get some help from government, but we still have to, raise a lot of money.
Yes, of course.
But he always dedicated it either to the people who helped or the people in the hospice and so on. So he never sought these things.
But it's nice that he received them. He also worked with many people, I believe Dr. McDade, Dr. James McDade amongst them, in offering advice and knowledge in terms of the establishment of the Donegal Hospice, which is and I'm sure, and I have no doubt the full hospice, because I do know how the love that people have and the respect for the services they provide. But he was also very influential in guiding and giving advice in terms of the establishment of the Donegal Hospice.
Yes, I'm glad you raised Dr. McDade, because I was with him a week or so back, and hopefully he's coming. He's retired now, as you know. But what happened there, you see, right from the get-go, Tom had the idea of spreading that, our hospice was for everybody. So he didn't see a border existing. And it was also to overcome prejudices of Catholic and Protestant. And also prepare people, the main thing, preparing people for, as we call it, passing over the bridge to the next world. But it was open to everybody, even people without a religion, obviously. So what happened there was that Dr. McDade had a young boy, Adrian Mitchell, age 6, who was dying and in a lot of pain and hated having injections and so forth. So in fact, James McDade consulted Tom at the time, who introduced for the first time, I think he was the youngest person to have the use of a syringe driver. And as a result of that, that acted as a catalyst, because young Adrian died peacefully and pain-free at the end. And so they said, and I quote James McDade, in the book, saying that we decided that we needed a hospice for Donegal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, very quickly, there were others came around. Similar, really, to Foyle Hospice. The steering committee was 2 on one day, and within weeks there were other people coming to join. So that as a result of that, Tom was the medical director for the Donegal Hospice in the very early days. But as you know, it's been independent.
Yep.
But they meet and mix and share,
And
So
just to
that's
let the listeners know, there's a chapter on the forming of the Donegal Hospice, and we talked of accolades too. Obviously, we know Dr. McGinley's love of Donegal and West Donegal, and I presume it was particularly a proud moment for him in receiving the Donegal Person of the Year.
Yes, and at that particular time, although he had spoken often about his mother, May, who was a woman of extreme faith, real faith, and also a wise woman, and he often spoke about her, but he didn't say much over the years about his dad. And it was at that presentation that he raised the issue and dedicated that particular accolade to his father.
What a remarkable insight, yeah.
And I use his words in that chapter.
what was it like for you, Keith, writing this book? Obviously, you knew Dr. McGinley for a long time and had to work closely with him and had so many shared experiences and achievements and knockbacks, and I'm sure everything that went along with the campaign that you were involved with each other on, especially given the fact that he's held in such high regard and his legacy is there for all to see. And it's so important that people now in their controlling and running of the likes of the Foyle Hospice, it's his legacy in which they're trying to protect in offering the very best service that can be available. But from your perspective, Dr. Munro, what was it like to work on this book about your friend, but also such an important person that you, of course, had to get it right?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because I had stepped down as chairman of the trustees in 2014, so I wasn't involved in the running of anything. And then COVID came along some years later. Tom had retired and he had time with his family and so forth. But so I lost contact, except seeing him occasionally. And then I suddenly realized he died in the middle of COVID. The population and all those who knew Tom at that time or heard of him hadn't the opportunity of celebrating his life or come to the funeral. Even the close family, when he was, it was only close family who was allowed at the funeral. So I realized a year ago, when I went out to his grave, I decided to go to his grave one day, and Kieran was with me, his son. And I said, Kieran, I think the time's right that I do a book on your dad, because this generation, if you ask 1,000 people, have you heard of Foyle Hospice? They'll all say, yes, I've heard of it. Have you heard of Dr. McGinley? Yeah, a bit. And very few people know where he came from and how he achieved this goal with the help of thousands of other people.
Yes.
So that was what set me going a year ago, and I worked with Aisling, his daughter, who lives in County Down. We Zoomed a lot, and she helped me with the book. And I sourced a family book, which has not been made public, and my own book on the history, Building Bridges, it was called, which I did about, God, I think it's 20 years ago now. So that is, this book focuses on Tom, obviously, and it brings some enlightenment to his early life, how he got started, what he did.
Yeah, so it's fascinating because we are, we're things happen in life that direct us to where we end up, and things influence us, and it's great to get an insight into, the people might believe they know Tom McGinley, but how did he get to be the Dr. Tom McGinley and that's the insight that you bring. The book, Dr. Tom McGinley, founder of the Foyle Hospice, it's going to be launched on Wednesday the 29th of January at 7:15 p.m. in St. Colum's Hall, Orchard Street in Derry. Now, there is capacity for 785 people, which will be consumed rather quickly, I'd imagine. It's free to attend, but obviously organisers, and Dr. Keith, I'm sure, wants to know the numbers. So you are, and we'll link it here, you are asked to book online in advance. Now, the book is £15 per copy, and the proceeds, I'm not sure, is it just on the night, Keith, or throughout the course of its publication, but proceeds on the night at least go to the Foyle Hospice?
The proceeds of the book ultimately, on the night, obviously, but thereafter from bookshops and online. There's actually I'm not running it, but Kieran and I'm trying to remember his name. Mr. Soul, who owns the iPrint company,
yes.
who's printed the book, it will gradually, after expenses of printing and so on, and we got the hall given free, and people have been very generous. But money, then everything else will go in the name of Tom to the hospice. Mm-hmm. But the books will be sold in the hospice shops, at the fundraising, up at the hospice, the fundraising department, and so on.
Excellent. And the front cover features a lovely picture of Dr. Tom McGinley, actually. I'm sure he'd be very pleased with that. Dr. Keith Munro, thank you so much for all of your time. We will advise people of how to book and what have you. These URLs, addresses, are hard to take down over the air, but we'll give it to anyone who's interested. Thank you very much indeed for your time. And you, Greg, thank you very much indeed for having me on. No, it's a pleasure. Thank you. That is Dr. Keith Munro, the author of Dr. Tom McGinley, founder of the Foyle Hospice.
The 9 till noon show, brought to you by Kelly's Toyota, with a range of offers now available for 251 on our impressive lineup of hybrid and plug-in hybrid vehicles.
Do you need a little extra help staying in your home? At Bluebird Care, we offer a wide variety of QMark approved personalised home care services across Donegal. And our fully trained and committed staff will always meet your care needs with kindness, compassion and dignity. To get your personal home care assessment plan, visit bluebirdcare.ie or call our care team today on 07491 29562 and bring care home.
The TUI sale is now on, with thousands of holidays reduced, plus save up to an extra €250 per booking. Lock in your getaway today with a low booking deposit. Book now on app, online or in your local store. Holiday deal sorted. TUI, live happy. Offer terms and conditions apply.
Are you worried about trees on your property? Northwest Forestry Services Ballybuffet are fully insured and have over 40 years experience in dangerous tree removal, tree felling, surgery and stump grinding. For peace of mind, call Northwest Forest Services Ballybuffet for a no obligation quotation on 913233.
The biggest ever January sale is now on at Foy's with massive savings across every department. From stylish giftware and kitchenware to beautiful rugs, curtains and fabrics. Also great reductions in cushions, wall art, throws, home accessories and clearance furniture. For something special to transform your home, visit Foy's in Ballybuffet and Letterkenny today. Foy's, where style meets savings, bringing your home to life.
The 9 till noon show, brought to you by Kelly's Toyota, with an impressive range of hybrid, plug-in hybrid and electric vehicles, giving you the power of choice.
Niamh Padraig Iskaheen are on the All-Ireland Trail this weekend. The Donegal and Ulster champions play Kilmurray of Cork in the All-Ireland semi-finals this Sunday. Join Oisín Kelly and Brendan Devaney for full match commentary from the 2 o'clock throw-in at Parnell Park in Dublin. Coverage of Niamh Padraig Iskaheen in the All-Ireland Club Championship is with Doherty Centra Muff, proudly supporting our local teams.
Tá méadú ag teacht lín na dáthóirí do Hácháin Ollscoile an Teanna do Machán seo. Beidh níos mó institúdaí ná riomhtheanna fud na hÉireann san áireamh sa tácheantar ardidachas éonar nua.
Má séarán a chéir na chu atá 8 mbliana 10 díos agus níos sinne a bhfuil céim agat ag cheann na institúdaí sin, détá a bheith dedal bóta a chahabh.
Beifar an anchláú go dtíon 3 lás fihead anar. Tá tuile eolais le fáil shanadvoter.ie. Seo teachtracht ó Rialtas na hÉireann.
January is a big deal in the Virgin Media Playhouse. See how great value plays out for you. Get €100 off your bill. Our Wi-Fi guarantee included for free with our fastest broadband speeds and no activation fee. That's uninterrupted Wi-Fi guaranteed everywhere in your home. Switch today at virginmedia.ie. Virgin Media. It's playtime.
Subject to location and availability. T's and C's apply. New customers only. Offer applies to 1 gig and 2 gig broadband. €100 bill credit applied automatically to customers' accounts on April 1st, 2025. The Wi-Fi guarantee ensures minimum download speeds of 30 meg in every room. Offer ends February 5th, 2025.
At Charlie's in Letterkenny, they've been serving great food since 1984 to sit in and take away. Everything is cooked to order, so if you're having an all-day breakfast, a burger, or some of their renowned fish and chips, you'll know it's been freshly prepared. And there's a great selection of gluten-free options. Home-cooked food in the heart of Letterkenny at Charlie's. Open Tuesdays to Saturdays, 12 to 8 on the Pierce Road. When the hunger hits, pull into Charlie's.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhinney's. It's time to save big with the McElhinney's winter sale. Enjoy up to 50% off fashion, homeware, accessories and more in store and online at mcElhinney's.com today.
So very cold this morning with widespread frost and ice lingering. Rather wet too with scattered wintry showers drifting over in cold northerly breezes. Sunny spells will develop later as showers ease, but staying bitterly cold with highs struggling at just 0 to 4 degrees. Very cold but mostly dry tonight with frost setting in early. Cloud will push in from the south later, but it'll stay bitterly cold. Lowest temperatures of -7 to -2 degrees, with the lowest temperatures occurring early in the night. Frost, ice and black ice patches are expected, but hopefully now things will start to get more mild through tomorrow. So changes to speed limits on rural and local roads, which were due to come into effect from the 7th of February. The changes are part of Ireland's government road safety strategy running till 2030, which is the primary aim of reducing the number of deaths and serious injuries on Irish roads by 50% by 2030. The first phase of the action plan for the strategy set out the need for a working group of relevant stakeholders to review speed limits. The group published its review in September 2023. Now, rural local roads are going to see the speed limit reduced from 80 kilometres per hour to 60 kilometres per hour. National secondary roads are going to be reduced from 100 kilometres per hour to 80 kilometres per hour. Roads in built-up areas scheduled to be reduced from 50 kilometres an hour to 30 kilometres per hour. Now, there are default limits set in the primary legislation, but then it's up to the council to make some determination. So, say, for instance, it's likely that the road from Letterkenny to Dunfanaghy will be reduced to 80, I'd imagine, and it's probably likely that the road between Ballybofreystranolor to Donegal Town will remain at 100. Is my take on it. But we'll get Kevin's take on it. He has views on this. Kevin, good morning to you.
Greg?
I'm doing okay. Right. So, what's your view on these reductions? I suppose the first tranche, early February, roads are being reduced by 20 kilometres per hour.
Well, initially when I seen it on my phone while I was scrolling through it over Christmas, I thought, I didn't look at what type of road was being reduced, but and I was a bit irate being a road user all over the county. But when I found out, I was talking to somebody yesterday that would know more about what he says it's only the local roads that's been reduced for now, I think. But what you just read out there is they're bringing down, is it secondary roads?
Yeah.
From 100 down to 80.
Yes, but and I've been trying to track this since the announcement was first made, and it is a little bit more complex than all of a sudden now the only speed limit on the roads that we would primarily use would be 80. That's my understanding. But I think what it means is like the road from Letterkenny to Lifford. Right, I think most people believe there's not much that road can tolerate 100 kilometres per hour. Pull that one back to 80. But if you turn left and you head into Derry, obviously that road would be retained at 100.
Yes. Well, the road to Lifford, obviously, there's parts of it. You can do 100, no problem. Around the Rafo turnoff, St Johnson turnoff area there. There's good stretches there where you can do 100. What I see from driving around the county is, if the limit is say 80, or brought down to 60, people are driving too slow on good parts of the road, which causes major tailbacks, and then you get somebody doing dangerous manoeuvres, passing out lines of traffic where they shouldn't be.
So Kevin, not putting words in your mouth, until such time, we know there are changes are going to be made and we don't necessarily know the ins and outs of it, but I think what you're saying is it's a blunt instrument and they have to make sure that they don't reduce the speed limit on certain roads that actually adds to danger.
That's right, yeah. That's what I'm getting at, local roads where I live, there's roads which are 80 now are going to be reduced to 60, and there is parts of the road where you can do 80, which is the old 50 miles per hour, quite safely when the occasion occurs. But when these new laws come in, if they're policed properly, like people are going to be fined and get points and what have you to try and save lives on roads which, to my knowledge, haven't had a lot of fatal accidents on them. Back roads, people have to use their cop on, policing, I think, is a bigger problem than the speed limits.
I think what happens
that we have at the minute.
Yeah, I think what happens in terms of new laws and regulations, and people think about enforcement. I think there's an awful lot of people, maybe 60-65% of people, change their behaviour simply because the sign says so. And then what happens is, and I think we saw this with the new quads regulations, Kevin, you just come in and do a blitz, right? So you do one person in one particular area, and then the word spreads out. There's a level of enforcement, and that catches another 20% of people. And then there's 20% of people, perhaps, or more or less, that just will never adhere to rules and regulations anyway. And I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to change driver behaviour for the majority, even though some people will just completely disregard it.
Well, I'm totally, obviously I'm not against anything that's going to save lives on the roads, but sometimes it can cause more bother than it solves, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I get you.
But,
and it's whenever we change whenever we change anything, we have to make sure we're doing it right, that it's not a knee-jerk reaction, that rather than spending money on more Gardaí, we're just changing the speed limits because it looks like we're doing something. It has to be the right thing, Kevin, and I agree with you, and we'll have to wait and see. Yeah. Lovely to talk to you, Kevin. Stay safe out and about. Kevin's of the view that we have to be careful that in reducing the speed limits that we don't actually slow traffic up to the point whereby it becomes more dangerous. I wonder, do you agree? 086 60 25,000. We will actually get somebody on from the local authority so that we're speaking in a position of complete knowledge. We will get someone on from the local authority, if they'll work with us on that, to talk about what roads are likely to be affected and how that will all work, because I think we don't want a vacuum of believing that every single road will be reduced by a certain amount and so what. So that's our job here, to get the proper information out to you. So as soon as we can, we'll bring on someone from the local authority and get that all cleared up for you, so you know exactly what the story is.
The 9 till Noon Show, brought to you by Kelly's Toyota. With over 50 years of experience, trust us to help you on your electric journey.
Más fer mór hu, ní hoán go gwyr an tirshe leis an mwail go meag droch impiste good. Laidíonn siad a chumas tascanna chur a gríoch go héfach túil. Rud a laidíonn caidan de chudibre agus de hargiúlacht fud na ferme. Nuair a bhíonn tú spíonnta bíonn sé crua derm. Feig tuile ólis faoi chonas daileáil le tiirse an bherim hsa.ie/farm fatigue. Tugra de chud rialtas na héireann.
Crawford Tiles Castlefin. Massive January sale is now on. 20% off all tiles in stock, 15% off all bathware, 10% off all wooden flooring. This is the sale of all sales. You've tried the rest, now get the best. Don't miss out. When it's gone, it's gone. Crawford Tiles. Call 07491 43942.
If you smell gas at home or on the street, don't ignore it. Open windows and doors. Don't smoke, vape, or use a naked flame. Don't unplug or switch anything electrical on or off. Turn off the gas at the meter. Then, no matter who your gas supplier is, call Gas Networks Ireland on 1800 20 50 50. Visit gasnetworks.ie to screenshot the safety steps, save them to your device, and share with friends and family.
Massive clearance at Evolve Clothing Letterkenny Retail Park. Ex-hire suits from just €5 and €10. Yes, only €5 and €10. Don't miss out. Our biggest ever reduced to clear winter suit sale. Shop now and save big.
If you need an eye test, look no further than Louis Walsh Opticians. Letterkenny's longest established opticians are delighted to welcome patients new and old to their state-of-the-art practice in the Courtyard Shopping Centre. Their latest technology includes a 3D OCT retinal camera, which assesses the health of your eyes in minutes. Private, medical card and PRSI patients welcome. Call 91 21000 to arrange your eye test.
Louis Walsh Opticians, Letterkenny. Your vision, our focus.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
Heading into the last hour of the 9 till Noon Show for this Thursday. Let's get a news update now, and we welcome back into studio Michaela Clark. Good morning, Michaela.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. The proposed developer of the site of the Creaselaw explosion has responded to Donegal County Council's request for further clarification. Vivo Shell Limited has submitted significant further information and revised plans to their planning application to redevelop the site where 10 people lost their lives in an explosion over 2 years ago. Donegal County Council received a revised site layout and road safety audit from the developer on December the 10th. Investigations are continuing into the discovery of a man's body at a vacant property in the Dundrean area of Burnfoot yesterday afternoon. The man has not yet been identified. A post-mortem is due to be carried out today, the results of which will determine the course of the Garda investigation. Met Éireann is being accused of catastrophising normal winter weather by issuing continuous weather warnings. Intu leader Peadar Tóibín says while they are valid for some areas in recent days, others are just experiencing a heavy frost. A status yellow low temperature and ice warning is in place in Donegal until tomorrow lunchtime, while a new status orange low temperature and ice warning has been issued for 13 other counties tonight. Gardaí are continuing to question a man in his 50s after a major security incident at Dublin's Connolly station. It followed reports of a passenger with a suspected shotgun on a train from Sligo yesterday evening. A large-scale response, including teams of armed Gardaí, were deployed to the scene. The station was evacuated and a security sweep carried out. A Donegal TD says developing more local facilities, such as a new primary care centre opening this afternoon in Dunfanaghy, will ensure people can receive care closer to their homes and ultimately relieve some of the pressure facing Letterkenny University Hospital. The new centre in Dunfanaghy will provide GP services as well as dental services, public health nursing, physiotherapy, occupational therapy, home support and a number of visiting clinics. An ambulance dispatch point is also located on the site. And 5 organisations in Donegal are to receive over €750,000 in funding from the Arts Council. €68.5 million has been allocated to 175 arts organisations, centres and studios across the country. Those benefiting in Donegal include Angrenham Theatre in Letterkenny and the Regional Cultural Centre. Those are the latest headlines. We'll be back with an update again at 12 noon.
Thank you very much indeed, Michaela Clark, news back at 12. What do you think there of Peadar Tóibín's comments there? I do believe many people will agree with him. I think he's paying to that crowd. But I mean, we're sitting here with people contacting us constantly, wondering is it safe to travel from here to there. People are not attending hospital appointments. There's ice in the footpaths outside hospitals and schools. Schools are closed. School buses can't run. And we're in an orange. Is that catastrophising the weather? I mean, it's still, ultimately, it's up to us to decide what we do. It's guidance, right? I just can't believe weather forecasts and warnings are being politicised. I get it, right? I've had my frustrations and I've expressed the frustrations on this programme about silly weather warnings, particularly in the summer, a bit of wind, a bit of rain, right? But it just feels to me like people want and need a little bit of guidance when the weather is so bad right now. What do you think, though, out there? Have we catastrophised the weather with these weather warnings? Specifically, if you don't mind, this cold spell, not more generally, because I think here in the northwest it's always windy and it's always rainy, and it can be very frustrating and damaging to business when we get weather warnings for a bit of windy rain. But I just think at this time of the year, with the ice and those that it affects, particularly those in rural areas, the elderly and parents of school-going children, that bit of guidance is useful at this time. What do you out there think? I'm really interested in your views, regardless of what they are, of course. We want all views. 086 60 25,000. Do you believe with Peadar Tóibín? Do you agree with him? Or on this case, even if you're an Aon2 supporter, in this case, do you believe that the guidance from the weather people, and I suppose the media as well, is useful? Let us know. 086 60 25,000. 086 60 25,000. Or you can call us on 074 91 25,000.
Take my money. Introducing the Kentucky Original Wrap from KFC. It's a crispy original recipe fillet in a lightly toasted tortilla with black pepper mayo and iceberg lettuce. It's €2.90. It's a deal. And it's available at KFC now. Grab it before it goes. Until February 9th, subject to availability. Participating restaurants only. Not available on delivery. See website for full T's and C's.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show here on Highland Radio. Our next guest is going to be joining us very shortly. Just to some of your comments here. And hi there. If the council had gritted the Mongorry Road, there'd be nobody out in quads. People on this road can't get out. What are we paying tax for? And I think really it was kind of like the... I think it was more the behaviour of the person who was riding the quad more than anything. A song like Baidin Ailimi should be released, recorded in honour of Dr. McGinley, a song which is about Tory in Gola Island. Gola Island is across from Derrybeg, where Dr. McGinley grew up. Thank you for that. The Thorn Road in Letterkenny has had its traffic added to hugely because of the clubs and businesses. It's a minor road with a steep dip and no one exiting the club stops because it's so difficult to get off again. People are always rushing to games or training. No consideration is given to walkers or residents on the road. I'd gladly welcome a reduction in the speed on roads, says a listener. Right, okay, let us see. We were talking about some embarrassing situations and also some embarrassing situations, and I'm promising to rid you of the embarrassment here, and also some issues as it relates to housework and what you do and don't like. Hiya, Greg. Yes, it sucks when that happens. Not socks. That's why not use a laundry bag for separate stuff and you won't put a foot wrong, as you'd need some heavy socks for the snow that arrived last night, late post, as just when I thought when I heard in the forecast for all counties in the Republic of Ireland apart from Donegal. I don't mind the forgotten field this time. That comes in from Kevin in Dunlow. Wawa, now there's snow. Hello, I remember my husband went to a wake one time, opened the front door, went on through to the kitchen and met a woman and said, "Oh, I'm sorry for the loss of your mother. I only met her yesterday. Is this not such a name? Is this not such and such's name?" She says, "Oh, you're looking for that house up that road." I still take it out on him from this to this very day, Greg. He's a man that never gets anything wrong. Well, isn't it good that you've got that on him anyway? I'd have to get clearance for a couple of the stories that I have at the moment. But I do have one of my father, sadly passed, who did attend a wake. He would have had quite a loud voice. And he thought that someone that he would have met in the pub now and again had passed away, and went into the wake and did say rather loudly, it has to be said, at the side of the coffin, "That's not him." But the subtlety perhaps wasn't there. But he was glad that his friend hadn't passed. Hi, Greg. Happy New Year to all at Highland Radio. I'm single and I live with my elderly mother. One day I took ill in the bathroom and passed out. My mother panicked when she found me. She called my sister and then asked, had she called an ambulance by my sister? Her answer was yes. The paramilitaries, not the paramedics, are on the way. Paul Blaney, Dan Patrick. Also, she once sold my dad's car for him while he was up there in Donegal on holiday. When the person on the phone asked if the car was in good condition, she said, "Oh yes, it's in immaculate conception." They both roared with laughter. So she's calling paramedics paramilitaries and condition conception. It's immaculate conception. Keep them coming in for us. A caller says, "We are definitely the forgotten county. There has not been one reporter on RTE reporting the weather up here. They've showed weather updates from the rest of the country, so why not let people know what's happening in the county of Donegal?" Well, that's what we're here for you. Barra Best, BBC weatherman, posted Castledurg, second coldest in Ireland last night at -7 as it's on the Donegal border. Very strange, Donegal got a yellow warning. Another, "I enjoy doing housework and listening to Highland Radio. This makes me laugh out loud now. A local man had the same jacket as my husband and I almost cuddled up to him in the town. Stay safe." Okay, embarrassing moments. Cuddling up to a stranger. He probably would have been delighted. Re-embarrassing moments. I came out of the GP's one day and the car wouldn't start. I thought nothing of it because I was going down the hill and I thought I'd kickstart it on the hill, only to discover I was in the wrong car. Talk about being embarrassed, and the owner standing laughing, wondering how far I would get. Keep your embarrassing stories coming into us. Absolutely loving those. And there's lots of other stuff on other matters as well. Okay, we'll take a break and our next guest joins us after these.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
The 9 till noon show, brought to you by Kelly's Toyota, Port Road, Letterkenny. Stockists of a wide range of used passenger and commercial vehicles.
Get big savings for your little ones at the Dunnes Stores Baby and Toddler event. Mix and match any 3 for €30 on a range of Pampers Jumbo nappies and pants. Keep them fresh and clean with selected Johnson's Bath and Bedtime, like baby oil and shampoo, now half price. Plus, save at the till with a 10 off 50 grocery voucher. Dunnes Stores, always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used on next grocery shop of €50 or more.
You know that guy I've been seeing? Yeah? Turns out my sister's been seeing him too. Oh, really? And I heard he's been seeing Siobhan at number 56. And Declan. Your brother? Yep.
Specsavers opticians and audiologists own their stores, so your care is their business, which can make them rather popular.
I've got something to tell you. I've got half an hour with him this afternoon.
Specsavers, your care is our business.
Do you suffer from high cholesterol, menopause symptoms, digestive issues, anxiety, aches and pains, or a lack of energy? The highly trained team at The Natural Way Letterkenny can provide advice on natural remedies for a number of individual health issues. The Natural Way also has its own brand of herbal treatments to help fight fatigue, relieve digestive discomfort, maintain a healthy immune system, and alleviate common menopause symptoms. The Natural Way at Letterkenny Shopping Centre, your one-stop health shop.
Get the right tools or equipment to get the job done with great hire deals at Watson Hire in Letterkenny. Everything from diggers to power tools, dumpers to portaloos, and pressure washers to cherry pickers. Watson's offer a fast and reliable service. To book, call Watson Hire in Letterkenny on 9167777.
Shekelatha ama Highland Radio. Arna Dortugad ag Airgrid. Uproar agus Vorbor an go letrahas na Héireann. Airgrid. Pobl a guachtu, era a guachtu. Heshe.
It's 12 minutes, approaching 13 minutes past 11. Some of your comments here. Good morning. They need to cut the speed on cars and put a speed limiter on all cars to do 100 kilometres per hour. Hi, can you highlight this? My car failed its NCT in December and needed a retest, which I was told at the time would be €28. I went to book it yesterday and the fee is increased to €40 to retest, an increase of 42%. The initial test has been increased by 10% to €60. Why such an increase in retest cost? Can you find out? Thanks. Well, the problem is that the RSA's broke, I think, and maybe that's the reason if the money indeed goes in that direction. Right, now I 100% agree with Kevin on speed, says a listener there. Letterkenny to Fanad is an 80-kilometre road which is poorly highlighted and many drivers breach the limit on this road. Better signage needed. Another, there's a narrow border road in Inishowen where the speed limit changes from 80 kilometres per hour to 50 kilometres per hour to 30 kilometres per hour to 50 kilometres per hour once you cross the border into the north, as it is a local road. Changing the speed limit on this side of the border to 60 kilometres to 40 miles per hour makes sense and will be very, very welcome indeed. Right, okay. As you would know, we're always well represented at the BT Young Scientist exhibition, and our focus today is going to be in the at the Abbey Vocational School. They've got 4 projects in total: a wearable capsize alert system by Harry Davies, Menopause, How Much Do You Know by Isla Buchanan, an investigation into the initial success of the new deposit return scheme, why are 25% of people still not using it, and also an investigation into skin microbiomes of people who identify as highly attractive and bitten by mosquitoes and poorly attractive and not bitten by mosquitoes. I will just point out at this point, because I think it's important information, I have never been bitten by a mosquito, so I can obviously, as a highly attractive person, that makes sense. All right, the guests are walking around all over the place. Do I go to them? I don't know. Can you stop walking for a second so I can speak to you? Right, I'll cross over to them in a moment, but I'll just go to another couple of comments. Greg, I was just about to text about barking dogs outside at night when the subject came up. This is so common. You can fill in a complaint form to the council, but only if you've informed the owner first. How popular will you be with the neighbour and their friends and their relatives? Okay, I think I can say good morning now to students Ryan McCallig, Keevin Craddock and Oisin Kerrigan. Are you there, gentlemen? No, we're going to be saying hello to them shortly. All right, who's this? Is this Keevin, is it?
Good morning, Greg.
Good morning. The sound isn't fantastic, but I still want to find out what you are doing down at the BT Young Scientist.
So our project is an investigation into the initial success of the new deposit return scheme and why are 25% still not using it.
Okay, I'm just going to have to ask you. You're just standing right beside each other, I think, and there's just a bit of feedback. So, Kevin, if you could just unmute there for me there. Now, I'll hear you loud and clear. Right, go ahead. Tell me about your project.
So our project is an investigation into the initial success of the new deposit return scheme and why are 25% of people still not using it.
And have you had any findings so far? So what's contained within this project? Why are a quarter of us not still using it or still not using it?
So the reason why a quarter of the people are still not using it is because the problems with the machines.
So they're frustrated and they go, stuff it, I'm not going to...
Yes, because they often spit out the bottles.
So that's interesting. So it's not necessarily public attitude. People are interested, but they're just frustrated at the interaction with the machines. Now, who is working with you? No, it's okay. It's okay. Who's working with you on this project?
I can't hear you, sorry.
No problem whatsoever. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
I was just asking, who's working with you on this project?
So my two friends, Rian McCallig and Oisín Kerrigan, are working on this project as well.
And what did you do to get this information? Did you ask the public? Did you do a survey? What's the story?
So what we initially did was we created an in-store survey at our supermarkets.
Fantastic.
After that, we thought that we encountered bias. So we decided to create an online survey where we would have gotten more accurate responses.
And was there a big difference between the in-store survey and the sort of online survey, guys?
Well, yeah, there was some differences, as one of the questions asked if they would rather to give money to give the deposit to charity rather than them to get it. So more people in the supermarkets said that they would prefer to give money to charity. And we think that that may have been slightly biased because they might want us to think, oh, we're good people. We're not bad people.
Yes, okay. And in fairness, you had a good sample size of people. 502 responded, 192 in store, 310 online. And, that's a big chunk of people. So this is probably really reflective of public attitudes, guys.
Yeah.
All right, well, listen, fair play to you. So you're down in Dublin now. Are you down at the awards? And if so, what's it like?
We are, yes.
All right, brilliant stuff. Well done.
Have just come round, so we're just after our judging.
Okay, well, I have no doubt you're going to do really well. You already have. It's a fantastic study. No one else is doing it as far as I'm aware. Fair play to you. All right, thank you very much indeed. That was the students, Ryan McCallig, Kevin Craddock and Oisín Kerrigan. I believe also now I can say a good morning to our next guests. And they are, and if you could unmute for me, girls, if you don't mind, they are Clodagh Hannigan and Katie Barr. We're using Katie's phone, so we'll say hello to her first. Katie, how are you getting on? I still can't hear you. I'll just request that I unmute you, so you should get a notification pop up on the phone there now. Can you hear me, Katie? Can I hear you? I can. Yeah. So, Katie, talk to me about your and Clodagh's work.
So, our project is an investigation into skin microbiomes of people who identify as highly attractive and bitten by mosquitoes and poorly attractive and not bitten by mosquitoes.
Why? And I mean that in a nice way. It's fascinating. But, Clodagh, why did you decide to go down this route?
We decided to do this because my granny gets bitten by mosquitoes and my dad doesn't, and we wanted to know why.
Are you trying to cause an argument in the family? Are you suggesting that? Are you suggesting that your dad's handsome and your granny isn't?
No.
So how did you go? Obviously, you needed more than two people for this project. So how did you go about doing the research? Because we were talking about this yesterday, and to be honest, we were all fascinated as to how you were going to do this.
Well, we made agar and we swabbed, we took the plates home and swabbed some of our family and friends at home, and we got the help from the Melrose family
And
practice nurse in
and
Donegal town.
Clodagh, how then? Like, I mean, obviously the science is easy, right? You can find out from the samples what's gone on in terms of bites. How then do you judge whether someone's attractive or not?
If they get bitten by mosquitoes or not.
And I don't dare ask, what were the findings? Are you less likely to be bitten by mosquitoes if you're good looking?
We found that your microbiomes are not significant to if you get bitten by mosquitoes or not.
All right, so in other words, mosquitoes don't care what you look like.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's a relief. But I was boasting I'd never been bitten by a mosquito, but as it turns out, it doesn't matter. Come here, what's the experience been like down there for you guys? And have you met the judges yet?
Yeah, we've been two judging.
All right, good stuff. And what did they think of the project? How was it received?
They thought it was very good, and we put a lot of hard work into our project.
Yeah, because really, the subject matter is the headline stuff, but it's the work and research that will impress the judges, isn't it? How you came to this conclusion and the innovation that you've shown and what have you.
Yeah.
All right, brilliant stuff. Listen, well done to you. Enjoy the experience. Glad you got down safe, and we'll chat again, I am sure. That was Clodagh Hannigan and Katie Barr. They're from the Abbey Vocational School. And we also spoke there to Ryan McCallig, Keevan Craddock and Oisín Kerrigan as well. And overcoming quite convoluted information and some technical issues, but we got there. Now, Harris Service Station in Convoy. We've been asked to mention that if anyone needs milk or bread or home fuels, gas, anything, any time of night, they can deliver. They're saying don't be stuck. So if you're local to Harris Service Station Convoy, they are digging you out. And if any other businesses or individuals want us to pass on such information, we will be more than happy to do that for you. Sing songs to yourself when on the housework platform. When on Pair and Socks, I'll sing that beautiful song from the 70s. Reunited and it feels so good. Peaches and Herbs. I don't know if that's a positive or a negative thing that you're sitting at home humming. I probably do that too. Embarrassing stories, Greg. Loving these, keeping them coming, because we're throwing them out to the universe, all right? And we're absolving you of your embarrassment. A few of us were at the cinema quite a few years ago now. My sister and her boyfriend, now husband, were also there a few seats in front of us. After an intermission in the film, she came back in when the lights had gone off. However, there was still enough light for us to see her snuggle up to a stranger directly behind her boyfriend, asking if she'd missed anything. Of course, she hasn't been allowed to forget the incident since, and is only allowed in, I would suggest, well-lit cinemas. Love it. If you have any more of those embarrassing stories, get them into us. Greg, our firstborn, my wife needed an emergency section, and afterwards, as I left the theatre all delighted, the nurse reached around to remove my scrubs, and I mistook this as a congratulatory hug. Embarrassed much? And the nurse was unimpressed. That comes in from Eddie. Oh, so she's the arms out looking to take. But do you know what? You'd went through an awful lot of stress, Eddie. You shouldn't be embarrassed by that. Let it go. We're here to help. Any more embarrassing stories? 086 60 25,000 is the WhatsApp and text number. I absolutely agree that we're over-dramatising the weather. There should be no warnings unless the weather is actually severe and dangerous. I remember walking to school as a child with snow well up over the ankles, but now everything comes to a standstill with less than an inch of snow. It's bonkers, they say. What happens when we actually do get dangerously severe weather? It'll be like the boy who cried wolf. Loads of you coming in with comments in relation to that as well. Right, I believe I can say good morning now to Professor Patricia Casey, who's a consultant psychiatrist at the Mater Hospital. Patricia, or Professor Patricia Casey, thank you very much for joining us. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you. And by the way, I'm not at the Mater anymore. I'm now in the Hermitage Medical Clinic.
Okie doke. That's good, but you're still doing the fantastic work that you're able to do. The headline, Ireland's mental health services are in a dire state of neglect. Why are things so bad?
It's so bad on a number of fronts. Firstly, there's the funding issue. We get 50% of the funding that we should be getting. And I say that because most countries get funding to the tune of about 10% of the total health budget for mental health. We in Ireland get 5%, 6%, between 5 and 6% of the total health budget. So we're underfunded. And the upshot of that is that we don't have enough doctors, particularly consultants and junior doctors, to treat people who need to be treated. We're short over 130 consultants in the country, and among junior doctors, we're dependent on people who are not necessarily training in psychiatry, but just doing 6 months to get experience. So they're not terribly experienced. So they're delivering the service at the coal face, as it were. And so all of that is a problem. And we don't have enough inpatient psychiatric beds. It's calculated that we have half the required beds. Most countries have double the amount of beds per million population that we have. Countries like France, Canada, the UK. So we're short on all fronts, but it all stems, I think, from the funding issue.
I'm not pitching one area of health against another, but sometimes when we talk about investment in the health service, the physical health service, if I can put it like that, people get frustrated because often the investment, it doesn't necessarily lead to the output that people want. It seems slightly different in the mental health services in that there's a clear pathway as to how increasing investment leads to more people being seen in a timely fashion and people being cared in a more efficient way. It seems to me an easier problem to fix with money. Do you believe there's any truth to that?
It would be an easier problem to fix with money because we would have more consultants, we would have more junior doctors who were who were in full-time training and therefore more knowledgeable about psychiatry. We would have more beds for people who need to stay in hospitals. Some people do need to be admitted to hospital, and most of the psychiatric patients would now be admitted to general hospitals, to psychiatric units in general hospitals. The old-fashioned mental hospitals have gone, bar a few. And we don't have those services. And in addition, we don't have the full multidisciplinary teams in many of the areas in Ireland. And a multidisciplinary team in psychiatry consists of a consultant psychiatrist, the junior doctor or doctors, a clinical psychologist, a social worker, an occupational therapist, and sometimes counsellors as well. So we don't have the full range of multidisciplinary teams around the country. And all of that interferes with patient care and the speed with which we can see people who are very ill, and also the competence with which they can be dealt with. Because if you don't have bodies to treat people, if you don't have doctors and social workers and consultants to see people, you can't provide treatment for them.
Yes, I think never more so than we have in recent years. We've talked about people talking about their mental health, coming forward, make that call, reach out. And that advice stands, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, too, we also see studies which show increases in people seeking mental health services, longer waiting lists, issues with CAMS and what have you. Yet things are worsening, but we're asking people to come forward. At the same time, too, if you look at the funding proportionately, we are funding mental health services less now than we did way, way, way back in the 1980s. So there's a serious disconnect there between the messaging, the requirements, and the actual funding. Might I add, from, and the government tell this all the time, a very rich country.
That's right. There is a disconnect between the advice, which is go and talk to somebody if you have a mental health problem, see a doctor, see a therapist. But we literally don't have the doctors who are needed to treat people with major mental illness. And they're the people that suffer. There are plenty of therapists and counsellors around for people with the milder conditions, people say who are going through a bad patch in their lives, maybe because of personal difficulties. But for people with major mental illness, there's a huge deficit and a gap in the messaging. And unfortunately, the Department of Health always deflect And their answer to this issue that has been raised is, well, we gave 125 billion this year, and that's so many million more than last year. But it's still proportionately less than they were giving 30 years ago for mental health. And at the time that mental health was being reasonably well resourced, back in the 70s and 80s, most of the treatment was offered from psychiatric hospitals, and we were told that when they closed, the money would be deflected, would be given back to psychiatry to develop the more modern services, competent services, responsive services, and instead the money was deflected elsewhere into other specialties, and so the money was stolen.
Yeah.
The money from the sale of psychiatric hospitals and the grounds on which they were built and subsequently were sold and made the government a lot of money. It was given to other specialties and not to psychiatry, and I think that's theft.
Yeah, a lot of people sort of listening to this who haven't been directly affected by it, it might sound like the same conversation you have about a lot of things, but we on this program will be contacting people quite regularly in desperate situations whereby they can't get support for someone with a mental health issue. And it's having an incredible impact on the individual, but also the family and the wider family and what have you. And then also too, and I'm sure we'll be contacted by people again today whose family members were in a desperate case and they just wanted some help and support, maybe inpatient help or whatever it might be. It didn't come, and very sadly they ended up losing them to suicide. They'll be listening to this conversation incredibly angry, hearing about the lack of investment compared to, say, the 70s and 80s when they have that empty chair at the table.
That's absolutely right. And child psychiatry is particularly badly affected because they have numerous, their consultant numbers are way down. There are several posts in child psychiatry that have been vacant for 3 years. And there was one particular one, and they didn't even get a single applicant. I think it was one of the Kerry services about 2 years ago when they advertised it. The HSE didn't get a single applicant.
Why is that, Professor?
Pardon?
Why is that? Is it because of the terms and conditions?
It's terms and conditions largely. And many people are now going to Australia and to Canada and to the US. But I think Australia is particularly appealing at the moment for young doctors who are coming out of training and training abroad and then choose to stay abroad. And Australia, for some reason, has very good health conditions and the weather is lovely and there's a very good work-life balance.
But I think it's very important that the public are critically thinking in that. It'd be very easy for the HSE to say, look at, we have these vacancies. We've advertised those vacancies. We're really trying hard to recruit. What more can we do? They might not say the last bit, but it would be implied. But at the end of the day, dig a little bit deeper and ask, well, why are these positions not being filled? What is the reason for that? Why do people believe that the grass is very much greener on the other side, be it Australia or wherever they might go? You have to dig a little bit deeper and say, are we doing enough to be competitive, to remunerate and support people so that they can, as many of them want to, live and work in their own country?
Well, no, we're not, is the short answer. And that's why people are not applying for these positions. They will come to positions where they find they may not have a junior doctor working with them. There'll be a one-man show, or they may not have adequate secretarial backup, or they may not have adequate social work. They may, when they look at the job spec and they ring the advertisers and find out, well, what facilities would be available for me for a multidisciplinary team, for example. They're advised that there are gaps, so that's a huge problem. So these positions need to be made more attractive, and they also have very rigid consultant contracts about what consultants can do out of hours. So if a consultant wants to do 2 hours a week, seeing private patients, seeing 2 or 3 private patients, they're not allowed to. So so all of these things are deterring people from applying for positions in this country.
I'm not comparing one terrible situation with another. In terms of road safety, look, we need to do absolutely everything we can to drive the numbers of deaths down on our roads. But there are way more people, and it's incredibly underreported, that die by suicide, as an example, every single year. The government and the media love to talk about road safety and what can we do, and we'll reduce these speed limits, and the RSA is going to be split in two and more money's going to be spent here, there and everywhere. But why don't we have the same sort of coverage and open conversations and solution-led conversations when dealing with mental health to try and tackle the scourge of suicide and self-harm in this country? Is it because it's too complicated? It's not sexy enough? Why?
Well, suicide is a bit of an exception in that the government has actually, and I'm not one to praise the government or the HSE generally.
Go ahead, though.
But on this, in this instance, I have to say they have done good work. They have established a national programme about 5 or 6 years ago, whereby every emergency department in every general hospital in Ireland has a fully trained, highly trained clinical nurse specialist who sees everybody who comes in with self-harm and suicidal ideation. They're all seen as an emergency by that person.
My experience of that is not as such up here. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not contradicting you or trying to diminish your praise, but we don't even have figures on suicides. I mean, that's something the coroners.
We do.
Well, no, we don't. I know you're the expert in this area, but the coroners currently are working to actually try and tidy up the system, whereby we have actual figures that reflect the level of suicide. I know that because Dr. Dennis Macaulay, our local coroner, is actively working in that area.
Well, maybe some suicides don't come to attention. I'd be very surprised if they didn't. But the indications are that the suicide rate in Ireland for the last 4 or 5 years has actually been dropping, as it has throughout Europe, in fact. And it's thought that it may well be linked to this new service that is up and running, whereby people are identified early and put on a care pathway. But of course, the care pathway might break down if there aren't any doctors to see them.
I get you, Patricia. And I bow to your authority in this area. By the way, I hope you don't think I'm being argumentative or contradictory.
No, not at all.
I appreciate it. And the point still stands. It comes from you, a top consultant. The state of the mental health service, whilst there are some improvements in some areas, is in a dire state of neglect. And I hope you don't believe, I hope I didn't come across as disrespectful. It certainly wouldn't be my intention. Thanks for your time today, and we hope to speak again. Have a lovely day.
Thank you very much for having me.
And that's our pleasure. Thank you so very much indeed. As I say, I'm not contradicting the professor. It's just that my experience of covering that issue, certainly in this part of the world, is a little bit different. To that effect, actually, a contact from a listener here. We have a 24-hour emergency service at Letterkenny University Hospital for people with physical conditions. We do not have a 24-hour service for mental health in Letterkenny, though Professor Casey suggested that every hospital has someone on duty, and anyone who presents with severe mental health issues is treated. That's what I heard there from the professor. My experience is that people are getting sent home and from hospitals. But anyway, this caller also believes there should be services for physical and mental health services for all. Mental health should not be discriminated against. That's their view. One on the hospice before we take a break. I know the hospice very well. My husband and myself, Paddy O'Grady, God rest his soul, and 4 others walked to raise money for the Foyle Hospice. We pushed a wheelbarrow, which my husband had made from Donegal to Derry on a walk. The walk took 4 days. We collected €8,000 in total, and that comes in from Madge O'Grady. Madge, a lovely memory to have. Very sorry that you lost your husband, Paddy, but I'm sure you've got wonderful, happy memories, and I'm sure there was plenty of happy memories on that walk, which produced €8,000 that you can reflect on, and we're thinking on you too as well. Right, we'll be back after a short break.
The 9 till noon show, brought to you by Kelly's Toyota, where you can care for your car with Toyota Relax, giving you a year's warranty with your service. Terms and conditions apply.
Shop Homeland's January mega deals. Bucol calving sensor now $249, save €80. Cozy Home kill and dried hardwood log crate now $249, save €50. Bold 100 wash lavender and chamomile washing powder now $19.99, save €7. Offers end January 26th. Visit your local Homeland or homeland.ie.
For day-to-day healthcare needs, generations have trusted the experienced staff at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. From coughs and colds to aches and pains, from vitamin supplements to first aid essentials. McGee's have what you need when you need it, with a full prescription service available daily. McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny. For healthcare help and advice you can always trust.
Radical new proposals for herds with TB. In this week's Irish Farmers Journal, find out how herds with TB could face new 3-year sale restrictions. Farmers rally to clear roads and help neighbours during big freeze. We look back at some of the scandals that rocked farming. Special slurry equipment focus with everything you need to know for the spring. Legal advice and adding a family member to your herd number. Plus, we have 20 ways for you to save money in your tax bill. All inside this week's Irish Farmers Journal.
New this week in Home Store and More. All floor lamps are half price. But better hurry, because when all our half price floor lamps are gone, they're gone. Also, all home gym equipment and all artificial plants and flowers are still all half price. But when all the half price home gym equipment and all the half price artificial plants and flowers are gone, they're definitely gone. Drop by your local Home Store and More. Visit us online at homestoreandmore.ie. Home Store and More. A happy home.
Donegal Civil Defence in association with Donegal County Council are available to provide essential services such as collecting or delivering groceries, fuel, medications, transport to medical appointments, delivering Meals on Wheels, etc. to the vulnerable in our community during this period of inclement weather. If anyone is in need of assistance, please contact Donegal Civil Defence on 074 9153 900.
Okay, we're joined on the programme now by Mary Hart, the wife of Jimmy Hart, the former Senator, of course. Mary, thanks for your time today. Good morning to you.
No problem. Morning to you.
Thank you very much for joining us on the show today. And we're speaking in the context of recent figures that show almost 1,300 people aged just 20 to 65 are in nursing homes, this due to a lack of community services. So how has this affected your family, Mary, and why did that statistic resonate with you?
Well, I think people probably know, a lot of people would have known Jimmy's story because it was well probably covered at the time. He had a traumatic brain injury after a fall in Dublin, went through the usual St. James's, Beaumont, National Rehabilitation Hospital, Letterkenny Medical, Royal Hospital, you name it, he was through it. And we worked, and all we wanted was for him to live when he was in Beaumont because he was in ICU and intubated. But then when he came home, I wanted him to live well, if you know what I mean. So he was at home with me. He was in the hospital initially, medical rehab, and they worked their wee socks off in there in physiotherapy, trying to get him back on his feet again, which we did, and supported by myself back home. We had some home help, that was grand. But what happens then is when he arrived home, there's this lack of community-based rehabilitation, especially neuro-rehabilitation needed, especially for people with traumatic brain injuries of any kind. Now, that could include ABI, Jimmy's an acquired brain injury, but there's also, you've got Parkinson's, you've got MS, you've got all of those different, whether it's epilepsy, it doesn't matter. You need community-based rehabilitation, proper community-based rehabilitation.
So do you
and
find
that would include things like...
Sorry, you can answer probably lead on to that and answering this question. Does that mean really, progress, the progress that you might see, stalls all those regression then once a patient, or Jimmy in this case, comes home, which is actually really hard to do with, I'm sure, as a loved one and as a caregiver, Mary?
He had progressed when he came home, but I had worked extremely hard with him. And anybody that knows me knows that I would. I had worked in community-based rehabilitation myself, albeit for mental health. And we used to say that mental health was the poor cousin of the disability services. Well, I'll tell you what, if mental health is the poor cousin, acquired brain injury is the poor cousin once removed.
Yeah.
Because the lack of physiotherapy, speech and language, neuropsychology, occupational therapy, social for Jimmy because he loved talking to people. I mean, as I described it to somebody recently, I said, do you know what it's like? I said, navigating this system, and I worked in it. Navigating the system, it was like a pin. I can only describe it like a pinball machine, Greg. So Jimmy's the ball, and I'm the lever. You used to pull the lever, and the ball would ping off all the different elements. Well, I'm pulling the lever, and Jimmy, I'm praying, will collide with some of the different health and social elements needed that are in the pinball machine. Before you fall down the drain, remember the ball then used to fall down the drain?
Yeah, you're just trying to keep it in play.
And that's what it's like. But and some of the elements are there, and some of them aren't there, and some of them are partially there. It's hit and miss, and it depends on your geography too. But the resources are not there to support community-based rehabilitation services. And the point I'm trying to make is, why on God's earth would you pump resources and energy and the work that people did in those trauma centres? So he went in the door, he was dealt with professionally. You come out the back door, you come home, and then at local level, we don't have the community-based rehabilitation that's required. We're saying it for years, we still don't have it. And Jimmy's potential, I keep saying, his potential was like he was writing for a local newspaper, he was walking unaided. And I'm like, his potential was lost not because of the brain injury, but because of the lack of community neuro rehabilitation services in this county.
Very hard
and that's a fact.
Very hard to observe that happening, Mary, I'm sure, from your perspective.
It's cruel. It's not even hard. It's cruel because so much energy was put into it, and it is completely lost. Now, granted, Jimmy ended up in a nursing home because he deteriorated on his health, which can happen with ABI. Like, it could have been episodic. I don't know. It must have been because he's actually quite well now, especially cognitively. Emotionally, he's fine. Physically, totally compromised now. Not gone. He still has power in his legs. But and his behaviour it's okay, but it can be triggered occasionally. So you need to keep an eye on that, what's triggering it. But you need specialised services. You can't put somebody in a nursing home and expect them to be specialised in acquired brain injury service.
His transfer to a nursing home was because of deteriorating health.
His mental health had deteriorated in that he was having chronic panic attacks and so on.
Okay.
Of course, mental health services think, oh, well, no, it's acquired brain injury. That's more, that doesn't fit into our category. So you don't really fit into any particular category because you fit into every category, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I got you.
Whether it's intellectual, whether it's emotional, whether it's physically compromised, whether it's mental health. It's all of those things. It's not just one or other. So that's why the community-based rehabilitation has to be multidisciplinary.
But Jimmy's now in a nursing home, Mary. If the supports in the community that should be there were there, would you believe he'd still be at home?
No. Oh, 100%. 100%. I've absolutely no doubt about that. And as I said, the potential wasn't lost because of the brain injury. We recovered from the brain injury, albeit never at 100%. It's never going to be. But because of the lack of community neuro rehab services, proper community neuro rehab services, don't waste the money pumping it into the trauma centres like the Bowmans that are all required, by the way, save lives. But why pump it in when you then abandon them? Like, it makes absolutely no sense. Absolutely none. And I am calling on whoever the new Minister for Health will be, whenever the government is formed, which according to Mehill will be before the 22nd of January, hopefully. If they are, whoever he or she is in the Minister for Health, I am calling on you to please look not just at the trauma centres, but underpin them with proper community-based rehabilitation services, which include all of those things like physiotherapy, speech and language, neuropsychology, occupational therapy, social, and more social. And put the resources where they're required. Do not waste it going in the front door of a trauma centre and then they go out the back door to go home and there's nothing. Mary, really and truly. It makes absolutely no economic sense whatsoever. Never mind, any moral sense to do that. to a human being.
The rehabilitative services you talk of, there are obviously gaps here. Are there other areas of the country that are getting it right? Like, is this a national issue or a HSE area issue? I'm just curious if it's across the board or particular gaps here.
Well, I think what they've done recently is there is a national trauma strategy, and I'd say they're probably trying out things maybe at different levels. Maybe you'll probably get Cork, Galway, Dublin, you can be sure. You know what I mean? But really and truly, it is geographically, this is a problem at national level. And make no mistake about it, it's just not there. You talk to the Acquired Brain Injury Service, who are here in Letterkenny, and a very good service they provide. But I mean, they have a little bungalow that holds, there's 5 beds in it. I mean, seriously, if you look at Donegal, look at the number of head traumas, even as a result of car accidents in County Donegal with young people. I've met those people in rehabilitation in Letterkenny Hospital. I mean, and I'm looking at them thinking, oh, and I know another lovely young boy that I know and love dearly, who is now in hospital and just starting the journey Jimmy started on 10, 11 years ago. And I'm thinking, oh my God, please let it be better for him.
Mary,
let it be better for him.
Jimmy's just 66. He remains in a nursing home. He remains far behind his potential with the right services and supports. What is the future then? I mean, you know, do you see a pathway to him maximising his potential with his condition? Do you see a pathway out of a nursing home where he can be in a different setting, even at home, with the supports that you talk of? Like, what does the future hold for you? I know what you're calling for, but what do you think will happen?
I know, but you have to remember now, when Jimmy was living at home, at least he was mobile. Now he's not even mobile. So it's the weight. I am now 66 years of age in June. With not a great back, I'll be honest with you. I have problems with it. So physically, even getting Jimmy from A to B now is much more difficult than it was when I had him at home. You know, I mean, it's only somebody sent me a video, 2018, and he was in the house in Rafo. I got him into the home in Rafo, and he was walking unaided. Wow. my son Michael was standing in the background with 2 little crutches, and Jimmy was walking unaided in the kitchen floor, and I thought, oh my God, look how far he had come. And I look now and I think, oh my God, this is immoral. And not only is it economically makes absolutely no sense, but morally it really is an awful stain on this country. It really is. And we're saying it for a long, long, long time. It's time. We have newly elected TDs in this country. We have 5 wannabe senators. Get the finger out. Use your levers of power when you're up there, and please ensure that Donegal in particular, and the rest of the country, fabulous, but Donegal, we want our own community-based rehabilitation service.
Okay, Mary Hart.
Funded properly.
Thank you very much for your time. Will you pass on our best wishes to former Senator Jimmy Hart? Always enjoyed engaging with him, and I wish him nothing but the best.
I know. He's still engaged with you. He would still engage with you.
No problem. Thanks so much, Mary. God bless you. Take care. That's Mary Hart, wife of former Senator Jimmy Hart.
The 9 till Noon Show, brought to you by Kelly's Toyota, Port Road, Letterkenny. Home to a wide range of Toyota commercial vehicles. Your perfect business partner.
No matter what the weather, your local Centra has got you covered with everything you need, like delicious fresh bakery, quality convenient meals, and great simple saver offers right across the store. Whatever the weather, Centra's here for you. Centra. Live every day.
Some of us don't have street smarts. And so yeah, that's how you can get into my house without setting off the alarm. And some of us don't have smart smarts.
It says push, don't pull.
At Energia, we think we can all be a little more energy smart. So if you have a smart meter at home, it's time to switch to one of our smart plans. Not only could you save 33% with an Energia smart plan, but you'll also get energy insights to help you manage your usage and make smarter energy choices. Use your smarts and make the switch today. See energia.ie or call us on 0818 300 701. Energia Smart Data Plan. EAB €1,160. Standing charge PSO levy apply. Savings based on standard electricity unit rates. Full details including associated terms and conditions at energia.ie.
Having COVID-19 symptoms or testing positive can be worrying, but knowing your risk level helps. Visit knowandgo.ie to find out if you're at risk of developing severe COVID-19. Call your healthcare professional to seek clinical assessment and advice if you contract COVID-19 and are at high risk for developing severe COVID-19. This message is supported by Pfizer Healthcare Ireland.
The Renault Symbioz E-Tech Full Hybrid is a study in balance in an all-new family compact SUV, much like a symphony. The solar-based sunroof illuminates or darkens, and the smart infotainment system has Google built in. It's a soaring crescendo of a family hybrid. The new Renault Symbioz from 0% APR or €1,500 trade-in bonus. Finance is made under a hire purchase agreement. T's and C's apply. MFS, subject to lending criteria. Offers are limited. See Renault.ie.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhinney's. It's time to save big with the McElhinney's winter sale. Enjoy up to 50% off fashion, homeware, accessories and more. In store and online at McElhinney's.com today.
So the Frost and ice lingering in many places throughout the course of today. Rather wet too, with scattered wintry showers drifting over us in a cold northerly breeze. Sunny spells will develop later as showers ease, but staying bitterly cold with highs struggling at just 0 to 4 degrees. It's our last bad night. Very cold, mostly dry tonight with frost setting in early. Cloud will push in from the south later, but it'll stay bitterly cold with lowest temperatures of -7 to -2 degrees, with the lowest temperatures occurring early in the night. Frost, ice and black ice patches expected. So what's tomorrow got in store? Cloudy with patchy light rain spreading from the southwest later in the day. Highest temperatures of 1 to 5 degrees with freshening easterly breezes. So the cold spell improving somewhat. Hi Greg, the whole reason we're not in an orange warning when I believe, same as yourself and plenty more, is Donegal is not of concern to the Dublin media. Simple, as are many civil servants, hospitals, etc. are not aware of how to spell out Donegal. Greg, some of the stats on the deposit refund scheme have to be down to businesses serving cans, example, in a cafe, and the customer doesn't take them home. I doubt the business owner takes them to the recycling either. This has crossed my mind a number of times. Well, maybe there's some cafe owners who let us know what the story is. Please tell people to keep quads from messing on the roads. We're paying for tax and insurance for what? So these people can wreak havoc on our roads, says the listener. Tell that woman to take one of her own to the ED and see how good she gets on with mental health services. Another, I think it's ridiculous that Michael O'Leary should be allowed back in the Dáil. He was kicked out of the party years ago and shouldn't be allowed to have an insight into politics. He's a kingmaker now, it would seem. The roads are bad in the Clonmany area, says a listener. My husband's home help can't come into him, which is why, maybe that's why we need these warnings. Regarding testing vehicles, I have a small van and it costs double the amount to test it than some cars that are bigger. Why does my van cost more to test? Asks a listener. Listen, we've loads of comments that we didn't get to. Thanks so much for taking the time. It's greatly appreciated. I will, of course, include them on tomorrow's show. And it's a busy show as well. We've got our Friday panel where we introduce 3 guests to you to debate the big issues of the day in the week. So stay tuned for that. We really love your involvement in that hour and are introducing more of your comments and what have you as well. That's entertainment between 11 and 12 and loads of other stuff in between. But for me, Greg Hughes, and Caroline Orr, who researched and produced the show, and Shannon Wilkins, who works on our IT, supporting Caroline as well, have a great